Hey now! It's your boy PSA Sitch here with another Tuesday stream with everyone's favorite wants to put his brain in a robot body before anyone else, Adam Friended.
Well, I think other people do want to do it at the same time, but other people, I guess, yeah, technically they all want to be before me, but whatever. How's it going? I haven't talked to you in
Good.
forever, man. How have you
I
been?
know. I know. I feel like it's been so long since I just talked to you, like a whole 8 hours
I
ago.
know the Monday Tuesday thing is. I
It's
mean, I
rough.
kind of like having a little break, but
Yeah, yeah.
we're getting through with the New Year stuff, and we have with us a special guest, Mike S. Miller.
Hey,
Mike S.
Mike.
Miller is the well. You've done a bunch of comic art for Marvel and DC, right? And
Oh, just about 30 years worth.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Damn.
so he's like a penciler and an inker, correct?
And a writer.
And you've
That's right,
colored
and a
and
writer.
you've done
And I'm
everything,
coloring now
right?
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does
Sometimes
everything.
I'm a journeyman. I
sometimes
even
you
letter
get yeah,
if I have to.
sometimes you get people that, you talk to them about being a Marvel or DC artist and it turns out like they're the drummer, they're like the colorist.
Wow,
They're
look
the
at this.
well, I'm saying,
Look
you
at
know,
you.
Yeah.
look, he's a front man that I
Okay.
respect, right? Obviously. So,
One
Hmm.
man
but
band. One man band.
but I
Yeah.
think you've done a successful book with Shadiversity, right?
Yeah.
And
Third highest selling crowdfund in
third
Indiegogo
highest,
history.
really? Yeah, we
Damn.
checked it out.
615,000, dude.
Six
615,000.
six hundred
Oof.
and fourteen 966, I believe. Unless, well, it might
I
have gone
was
up, but
rounding up. Sorry.
okay.
I'll
But yeah, we're not keeping track or anything. But yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. So
Yeah, I'm
you
busting my way through the second volume now, which I also wrote. What am I on page 32
I
now?
thought
Oh.
Shad was a writer on that book. Shad.
Shad wrote the novel,
Okay.
and I'm writing the adaptation.
Oh,
It
okay, I
is
gotcha.
Gotcha.
so yeah. It's adapting work is if you've ever done it, it's a whole separate animal to either writing or
Hmm.
I have done adaptations,
yeah,
so I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah.
And that's hugely controversial, like in the YouTube community as well, because, obviously we just had the whole Rings of Power debacle where it's like, are you going to stay true to the source material or are you just going to like virtue signal about your politics to
And then
some.
slap the label on it
Yeah,
of
exactly.
Tolkien,
Which
right?
a lot of
Yeah.
people obviously have a problem with. I have a problem with as well. I
Yeah.
mean, I.
No, no, in this case, Shad's essentially acting as the editor on the book.
Mhm.
So I went through what I did is I went through page by page and I did all the plot points and I broke it down and then I went in and you just have to get rid of stuff when you're adapting something that's big and add stuff to sort of shift it around. And then I I think we went through about three drafts back and forth with me and Shad. So he's very much just acting as an editor and trying to make sure that his characters, you know, if I'm writing a new scene for them, that they're speaking the way they should speak or, whatever. So
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome.
yeah,
So,
it's fun.
in addition, obviously, since we're all kind of like in this YouTube space, in addition to doing comic book art and stuff, we also argue on Twitter quite a bit about politics, right? I think you're kind of.
I don't think we have. Gosh, I'm blurry, aren't I? This camera sucks. um, have we argued?
I feel we have, yeah. I mean, I,
Adam, do you have notes on the
I,
argument?
I feel like it's just like a disagreement. I don't think we've actually like if you take it from
well, that's what an
disagreeing each other.
argument is. It's a
Well,
disagreement. Like
It's a nicer disagreement.
that's what a
well, no,
debate
because we
Nicer
didn't
is.
sit there and
argument.
go back and forth for 2 days on Twitter. It's like
Well,
you said
listen,
something, I
Mike.
respond, you respond, and it's like
You would go back and forth for 2 days, 3 days, 10 days, 6 months if I continued to respond. A lot of
that's true.
times I feel like I don't. Yeah, a lot of times I feel like let me just do Mike a favor here. I'm just gonna stop responding. But I do. This is one of the reasons why I thought, okay, well, we should get Mike on the show because I mean, we like to talk to people who disagree with us I think part of the show is showing people, you can disagree with people without it being World War III, or without completely trying to gaslight people into thinking, if someone
Yeah.
disagrees with you, it's the end of the world, like
Well,
some
or you can
catastrophe
make
is
them
on the
cry, though.
horizon.
You can make them cry sometimes.
I don't look. I love to make guests cry on the show. Not gonna lie, it's fun.
Give it a
Uh-huh.
shot.
But Mike is not gonna cry on the show. It's
And
like
Good.
he's
Good.
honestly, dude, I find, and this is so, I don't want to name anybody in particular,
Mhm.
but I
Uh-oh.
find talking to people that I agree with about everything painfully boring.
kind of boring. Yeah, I agree. I
Sure,
do
sure.
agree. I
It's
think
just
people
like I'm just
find it
listening
boring.
to you say something I would say, and I'm just like, what do you want? I'm just going to repeat something that you would say. And can we disagree
Yeah.
about something here?
I'm sure we have lots to disagree about. We had a guest on recently, Rob Noor, I think is his name,
Mm-hmm.
which was, I mean, it was a lot of fun. We disagreed about a lot of stuff. I think tell me how you feel about this, Mike, because one of the things that I've noticed that triggers me is when people assign me a position that isn't actually my position. And I feel like a lot of people get triggered by this, but they don't really consciously think, oh, that's what's going on here. As soon as you hone in on that, you can be like, okay, yes, this is something I need to fix. Not in me. I need to tell them, listen, well,
Yeah.
I need to make my position clearer, and then also realize that there are people in the world that just want to mischaracterize your position to fuck with you. So
Yeah. Yeah. You'll get that. I mean, I've gotten that since the internet was invented. So I've been on AOL message boards, on DC Comics message boards where I would waste entirely too much of my life, just like I would on Twitter. But like back then it was AOL.
It was even
or
worse
whatever.
back then.
But yeah, people are always just like, it's like you say you're a Christian, and then someone says, "Oh, well, you hate homosexuals." It's like,
well, but you do hate homosexuals, Mike. That's like,
see, that's incorrect. So.
I think you have a nuanced position on that, right?
No, I mean,
A
I
nuanced
think
hatred of
homosexuality
homosexuals.
is no, dude. I don't hate my brother because he's living in a adulterous. Sorry, Tom. Because he's living in an adulterous
So
life
he's not homosexual, but he's living in sin with a woman. Is that what you're saying?
right.
Okay.
And I don't hate him or her or anybody related to that. I don't approve of, or I don't even. It does not even my position to approve of it. I believe that's wrong. They don't have that belief. That's their life. Whatever. I don't sit there and tell them, all the time at all. Actually, I never even bring it up.
Aiden Paladin's in the chat. She says, "Oh hell yeah, Mike's work is great."
Oh, thank you.
Look, you got a fan. So, Sitch, you said there's some stuff going on in the news. You want to talk about topical stuff and see how much disagreement we can tease out of?
Well, I don't
go ahead.
know. Well, okay. Why don't we could talk about the transgender bathroom bill stuff, or I just had a Twitter interaction with Connor about original sin. If you want to talk about that.
That sounds like fun.
So do you? Well, okay. So Connor. So people were saying. Let me bring up the tweet. Actually, let's see how you. Feel
Mike
about this.
Mike is a religious Christian. Do you have a particular sect of Christianity you subscribe to?
Non-denominational.
Okay.
I just believe in the Bible.
Okay. So a guy says, I think a random person on Twitter says, I think it's hilariously ironic how Christian conservatives will correctly say it's absurd that leftists try to guilt trip people over things that they had nothing to do with, like slavery. However, the foundation of Christianity is original sin, which is a much more extreme version of this. Not only is the sin of the father a generally complete absurd idea, but Christians take it a step further, saying that we have this original sin because a rib woman was tricked into eating a forbidden fruit by a talking snake. So I guess the question is it fair to compare original sin to sort of the woke version of, racism being woke original sin?
No, because I think the concept of original sin is really about the breaking of perfection. Before the first sin, that everything was good. God said, I created this, it was good. I created this, it was good. It was good. Everything was good. Everything was perfect. Everything was godly. And then the first sin, it sort of broke the world, right? It allowed corruption to enter the world. And so we're not guilty of eating Eden, Eve, my daughter's name is Eden, Eve biting the apple, right? That's not our guilt, but it essentially broke the world. And so we are all the unfortunate beneficiaries of a broken world through that original sin. Whereas the other stuff, that is like voluntarily, um, you know, putting putting upon others the sins of their fathers. Right.
Okay, so right. So you're saying that like with original sin under your view, you're not like you personally not responsible or no person responsible for, the sin, personal sins of Adam and Eve. It's just that that action created an imperfect world in which we exist in, that
Right.
we are sinful in.
Right.
Okay.
There's two differences though
Well,
that I noticed between the critical race theory and the religious context that are just
mhm.
giant. The original sin, I think, in Christianity, and I'm not a Christian, obviously, I'm an atheist, but the original sin in Christianity gets the psychology right in that it says, human beings are flawed beings that need self improvement, which I believe in. Like, obviously, I think just from a biological perspective, we're born lying, cheating, stealing, thieving apes that want to subjugate other apes
Yeah.
without without some
that's
sort of
funny because I've had this discussion with someone. And they're like, "Oh no, kids are, you think babies
Pure.
are
Yeah.
sinful?" And I'm like, "Have you
hell
had any
yeah, they
kids?
are. This is the
Have you
whole
had any kids?"
this
I'm
is
like,
the whole
you have to
socialization
teach them,
process.
right?
Yeah, you
You have
need
to
to
teach them not to do all that stuff. It's
yeah,
like,
Right.
culture steps in and says, look, no, we don't behave that way. We're born and you give them whatever narrative works to get them on the right path. And
right,
in critical race theory, the original sin doesn't function in that way at all. The original sin is eternal guilt and damnation. It's like you're born a racist piece of shit that only wants to subjugate people, and there's nothing you can do about it. Don't you think that's kind of the difference there?
Well, no, well, it's not, it would be the idea would be like, oh, under wokeism, you have to accept some dogma, the woke dogma essentially, to absolve yourself of this original sin of racism.
Hmm.
That would be the comparison.
but you
Oh,
can't
okay.
absolve yourself because you're white.
Right. Because well, I mean, that's a fair difference, is that with wokeism, you can never really wash the slate
Yeah.
clean, I guess,
Yeah.
per se. Well, I'm curious though, because I'm not, I'm Jewish. I wasn't raised Christian by any means. Is it, is it like the norm? Is it the majority of Christians, do you think, believe kind of an original sin the way you do, or do they believe in it in a more like literal sense or a more metaphorical
Well,
sense?
I think that's probably a denominational. I'm
Hmm.
sure. I mean, I'm not. I never went to a Catholic church, but I think there's probably a different dogma about it in Catholic church and Catholic teaching. But just biblically, I think most. Yeah, no, I don't think I've ever even. I don't want to say ever, but it's really not even a topic that comes up much in any of the non-denominational churches that I've been to for the last 25 years.
Yeah,
Wokeism or
No,
progressivism?
no, no. The
the original
original
sin.
Original
sin,
sin.
Right.
Oh.
it's like it barely has ever come up. So it's not like something that gets, you know,
Yeah,
pounded into us
it
or
feels like
something.
a lot of, I don't know, it feels like from my outside experience that a lot of more modern Christianity is kind of moving away from that concept. And also, I mean, I'm assuming, I don't know if more modern Christianity is moving away from the concept that like, do you still have to be Christian and accept Jesus to not go to hell, or can you simply be a good person in accordance to, biblical
Well, in
teachings?
accordance to the scripture, there are no good people, and that
Well, I mean,
kind of goes back to the, you
could you
know,
still essentially get into heaven by, acting in some other way?
well, in the book of Romans, I think it might be chapter 2. It says that those without the law are a law unto themselves,
Mhm.
right? And essentially that we're all judged by the light that we're given. And you, as a Jew, you're lucky because if you go to Ezekiel, I think it's chapter 39. Are you familiar with Ezekiel? I don't know how
No,
much
no, not off the top of my head.
devout you are. All right. All right. Well, in Ezekiel, it talks about all of the house of Israel being
Mhm.
resurrected in the end days, right?
Based.
So all of the house of Israel is resurrected. In the New Testament, and also in Ezekiel, it talks about how Israel will be blinded, right? In the New Testament, Jesus echoes that because after the Jews reject Christ, he says they will be blinded until the fulfillment of the Gentiles comes in. So the fulfillment of the Gentiles is when I would assume it's like the rapture. It's like the maximum number of Gentiles are saved. They're grafted into the house of Israel. We're raptured. Israel is resurrected in whole, even like freaking Karl Marx, right? All the whole of the house of Israel is resurrected.
No.
Sorry. But here's the thing. Then there's a 1,000-year reign of the Messiah on earth. And I believe that's it's Jew time, right? It's like that's when the Jews, the whole house of Israel is resurrected, and then they get to make their choice, because at the end of the millennial reign, a third of mankind chooses to go with Satan anyways, because can't save a third of the people.
So does that mean, so I'm fine. I'm okay. As a Jew, I'm gonna be saved. But is Adam, as an atheist, is he fucked? Is he just totally screwed?
Yeah.
Adam, what are you doing?
Because Adam knows, he's familiar completely with the story and still rejects Christ.
Well, wait, I was just singing the praises of Christ. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but you don't
say
believe.
You're an atheist.
Well, yeah, there is that, but I mean, but I've been baptized like 3 times.
You know what? That's my curiosity. How were you raised, and what led you to say, okay, I'm going to reject all this and purposefully decide that I believe there is no God?
It just doesn't seem plausible to me. I mean, I really haven't thought about this stuff in like years, but the idea that there's a creator of the universe just doesn't seem plausible to me, especially like a personal God I mean, if there's a simulation, obviously there's a creator of the simulation, but I feel like that is even a cop-out.
Because I was raised agnostic, so I'm wondering why. Because from you saying it's not plausible, you're leaving room that you could be wrong, which is really the agnostic position. I don't know. I can't know.
Mm-hmm.
So why do you choose atheist over agnostic?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. I just always
do you choose, or do you just use it colloquially to mean agnostic?
No, I feel like I feel there's, like, obviously if there was some uncertainty, you'd do Pascal's wager, right? You'd like, why should I risk it and burn in hell, like you're saying, right? You're saying, like, is Adam going to be fucked when this 1,000 years rolls around?
Mm-hmm.
It all just seems, I feel also there's better explanations for it than the believer's perspective.
Do you fill all of your gaps with we'll figure it out later?
No, I've pretty much figured it all out. I do.
Really?
Yeah, I do feel.
Then how did nothing explode and become everything?
This is where a lot of us where you and I have a lot of disagreement, because I always default to kind of a scientific materialist perspective, and you kind of have this religious perspective that it just doesn't resonate with me as being as true. But I guess technically both could be true.
Mm-hmm.
Like God could. Well, but you don't believe in evolution, right? I mean,
No, but I did when I first became a believer.
Look at this.
I was a theistic evolutionist.
This is the evolution podcast.
I know. So this is the thing. If there is a God,
Mm-hmm.
like evolution, why is evolution a problem with you as a believer when evolution could exist and God could exist? There's no contradiction between them.
You can believe in Christ and believe in evolution. I was a theistic evolutionist for I don't remember how long it was, but it's because I was born and raised agnostic, dude. It was the first 20 years of my life. Yeah, and evolution is everywhere. PBS, schools, my
Mhm.
mom, my dad, everything's evolution.
Mhm.
And so I never heard any contrary arguments to it. And so when I was already a believer, I was a theistic evolution. I believed in the day age theory because the word for day can also be translated age. So if you're like, and if you line it up, it kind of makes sense with, first you need matter and time and space, and then you need earth and water, and then you need, grass, you need that's, and then, it kind of fits with the
Right.
6 days of creation. If you're a day age theorist. Um,
That's like 6,000-year-old Earth, right? We were talking
No,
No.
about.
see, the day age, if it's like you say instead of it's a 24-hour day, you say it's an age. In the first age, God created matter, time, and space, right? God,
How old do you
let
believe
there
the
be
Earth
light,
is?
let there be earth. Me
Yeah.
personally, yeah, about I don't know, 6,000 years, 10,000, whatever. Doesn't really,
Okay.
I can't put a pin on it, but I believe in a young earth.
I think 3.5 billion years is the
Well, uh,
consensus.
what changed your mind away from that to the young Earth idea?
Oh, well, yeah. So because I literally no longer had a dog in the fight, right?
Hmm.
Because I could go either way.
Right.
And then I started seeing all the evidence. Like people would give me books, and I'd go look stuff up, and I'd start reading, like Darwin's Black Box and Darwin on Trial, and just doing all of this different research for that pretty much disassembled the theory of evolution. I just got to a point at some point, and I can't say when it was, that I was just like the evidence is more on the side of a young Earth than it is on the side of the day age theory. So I just went with the young Earth.
Do you, I don't put you on the spot, but do you have like offhand? Because I'm trying to think. I've heard a lot of the arguments for it. I've never been persuaded by the young Earth idea. Is there like one offhand that you're like, this was like the kill
Yeah.
shot for me?
Dinosaur soft tissue.
What
When
about it?
dinosaur soft tissue was first discovered,
Hmm.
the gal who found it, and I read this in like Scientific American, she turns to her boss and she's looking at the microscope and she's got red blood cells and bone marrow.
Hmm.
And she turns to her boss and she's like, "Is this what I think it is?" And he's like, and this is in the magazine. He's like, "Yeah, now find a reason why it isn't, because literally it can't exist. If those bones are millions of years old, even a couple millions of years old, uh, the soft tissue would have disintegrated at a molecular level. But if you have soft tissue, you literally have something that can be carbon dated. You can't carbon date anything older than 50,000 years. So right out the gate, just the simple discovery of one T-Rex bone that they broke open on accident and found soft tissue in is like completely destroys the idea that dinosaurs didn't live up to at least 50,000 years ago, right? So the whole millions of years ago thing goes right out the window. But since then, dude, that was like the 80s or 90s when they found that. Since then, they find dinosaur soft. They've got a mummy of a freaking ankylosaurus. Now, I mean,
What?
not like a
Mhm.
wrapped mummy. I mean, they've got like it's like a mummified ankylosaurus. They've got soft tissue of like a whole bunch of different dinosaurs now, and I'm guessing you guys haven't even heard of it.
No, I don't
Well, I
follow
think
See,
there's
anything.
explanations
So,
for
because it
having soft
doesn't.
tissue.
If you'd have heard, if it was a big, it's a big deal, right?
well, what is
You haven't
their
heard of it.
explanation
This crap
for
should have been news.
what is
I
their
remember in the
explanation for it?
80s. I remember in the 80s when Archaeopteryx was discovered.
Hmm.
They found Archaeopteryx, and it was on CBS, on PBS NewsHour. It was freaking everywhere that they found Archaeopteryx. This brand new. It's it's the missing link between dinosaurs and birds. And then they found another one. And then they found another one. They found another one. They found another one. And so they have a bunch of different Archaeopteryx fossils now, and they've reclassified it. It's just a freaking bird with teeth, like a goose. Have you guys heard of that? Was that on PBS NewsHour? Was that
Well,
on
that
Sitch?
doesn't go
No,
against evolution in any way,
no,
shape, or
no.
form.
That my
The
point
soft
is,
tissue doesn't go against evolution in any way, shape, or form
it does.
either.
It can't exist. Well,
Well, it
okay,
would if it would
technically,
if
yeah.
it
If you're
couldn't.
gonna just say they lived up to 50,000 years ago and then they all died, it just shifts the timeline to what you've already expected and what you've already accepted and believed because it's been piped into you for the last 30, 40 years of your life, right? And
Well,
then you're
it
like,
doesn't change evolution, though. I mean,
Well,
obviously.
wait.
Go ahead.
It would if the claim is true that you couldn't find soft tissue beyond some time scale, then you would say, okay, well, this would be evidence that the time scale is wrong. But that's why I'm asking my question is, for the scientists who found this soft tissue, what is their explanation for it? Because I'm assuming they're not throwing their hands up in the air and saying, well, we
well,
don't believe evolution
well, this
anymore.
is the interesting thing. On the blood end, they tried to and they came up with this theory years later,
Mhm.
trying to explain it. They tried to say that the blood was so highly iron enriched that it somehow managed to escape dissolving on a molecular level, right? But it's not just blood that they found. They found is it the amniotic sac or some like birthing sac of like the duckbill dinosaur. They found they like I said, they find soft tissue all the time. I think they've got the cone of a and cone, that's like what's that made out of? The cones,
The
not
cone.
the stuff in your
Amber?
tendons.
What?
No, not amber.
Well, I mean,
The rods and cones in your eyes?
that's how they found
No, no,
soft
no, no. The
tissue
cone.
is
The like the spikes on a dinosaur.
Cartilage? Is it cartilage or something?
It's not cartilage. It's
Like the hair, that whatever that hair stuff is
yeah,
for your
yeah,
nails,
yeah.
like a
The hair
rhinoceros.
crap, something like that.
Yeah, okay.
Um, but yeah, so they found all kinds of stuff that you couldn't use the iron excuse for, and I don't know. I haven't looked up lately to see what they're trying to excuse it with.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, so that's just one thing. Another thing is if you look at Marco Polo's description of the dragon, dude, it's a theropod. I mean, it's like exactly a theropod. It's he describes it as it's got it's 30 feet in length, 8 feet the girth around the body, huge powerful hind legs, small four legs with three claws each, like that of a tiger, with claws like that of a tiger, and then uh it's so huge and massive and fearsome that even like lions and stuff run away from it. And then he just goes on to describe how the people in China hunt and kill them. So it's like just another a matter of fact kind of a thing. 1,200 years ago, Marco Polo witnessed this thing, and it's like
the
you believe history, you believe theories.
well the getting the timeline wrong on dinosaurs. I'm not sure how that affects
This proves evolution. Okay,
evolution. Yeah.
all right.
So do you believe in because a lot of
Abiotic.
people separate it into like long scale evolution or short term evolution. I think I'm getting the terms wrong there, but
Oh, micro and macro.
yeah, there we go. Microevolution,
Yeah, I believe
macroevolution.
I believe there's changes within a species. I don't think you can change.
Okay. So you draw the line at speciation that you don't think that happens evolutionarily.
Well, the original meaning of species was something that can reproduce within its own, right?
So I keep laughing at the chat because they're kind of, I mean, they're roasting you a little bit, but
I don't care. I have this ability to not care what other
I know
people
I feel bad. Come on, be nice, be be nice to Mike.
Mhm.
I just yeah so this is obviously why we disagree because I feel like the evolutionary explanations are more useful in your daily life. Like where are you at on psychology, which I do think, like, you're a writer, knowing human psychology I think is extremely helpful in writing because you know people's motivations and stuff like that. And we trace motivation obviously back to evolution. There's evolutionary reasons for people's motivation, but I don't know that you do that.
No, I wouldn't.
Right.
I just think people are people, and we're all kind of, you know, just wired. We're
So,
not all wired the same, but we have, same basic needs and basic desires
mhm.
and whatnot.
So do
So
Mhm.
you
it's like
subscribe to psychology? Do you think psychology's
a useful tool. I
yeah,
don't. I haven't done much study into it. Not, just a little bit in junior college, and
mhm.
Well, I
since
mean,
then
there's a
it
lot of
hasn't really.
psychology that has nothing to do with evolution.
Well, a lot of the things we talk about though.
Well, we focus on it, right?
Well,
But
even
you
Mike,
know,
as far as I mean, you're engaging somewhat in the culture war, right? You're talking about these topics.
Hmm.
The people on the left have abandoned the idea that there's biological sex differences between men and women. I'm assuming that you accept that that's ridiculous.
Of
I just
course.
that we would go to a justification for that rooted in evolution, where I mean, I
Well,
guess
I'd
you.
root that in biology. I
Mhm.
don't know why you have to go evolutionary biology for that. It's just
Well,
well, because we
there
every
are.
believe
mammal is a
that's what
male or a
creates.
female.
We would say that's what creates the difference in the first place. And I assume you would say, well, no, like God created the difference in the first
Yeah,
place, right? So
yeah.
he doesn't. I mean, he doesn't need evolution to justify
Biological
uh,
sex
the
differences.
biological sex differences.
No, you just have to have a rational brain, I think.
Well, I mean, if
I
you're,
think that's where they go off the bender.
Well, it's not going to be persuasive, like to someone who's not religious. I mean, the argument would be wholly unpersuasive if you say, well, God made men and women differently. Like they're just going to disregard that offhand.
True. Um, you just at this point you're just basically arguing with reality, though, and the entire history of the human race.
Well,
see,
there.
this is where I disagree with Mike because
Well, no.
he always
Well,
goes to these grand
it,
places.
it depends what you mean by that, because the left, like the woke argument is, well, not all woke, but a lot of the woke argument is essentially that these differences between men and women and most behavior is all just culture, is found in culture and society,
Sure, every single
creates
culture
these.
ever.
Right, exactly, exactly. Well, yeah, sure, but see, to me, that's evidence that it's rooted in biology, which I say is then rooted in evolution.
Right.
But and that would be the purpose for why evolution would provide the reason behind why these differences exist, and they seem to exist in other non-human animals to a lesser or to a more extent, depending on the animal you're talking about. But yeah, I don't
Peter
know.
Peter Fitzpatrick for $5 says, "Is it safe to
No,
assume that your guest believes that the Earth is flat too?" You're not a
No,
flat earther, Mike,
no, I'm
right?
not a flat earther.
I don't mean. I think there's very few flat earthers that are like sincere.
They're just doing it for to troll people.
I mean, I remember back in the day, I would go on the flat Earth forums, and it was like the troll Olympics. It was a quest to try to figure out who was serious and who was just trolling. That's like a whole
I
nother
did
level.
dive into it just because a friend of mine was like super into it, and he's like, "Dude, you got to watch all these videos." And so I watching them. And I would pick them apart for him, but it's like I'm open minded to being wrong about stuff. But you make a claim like that, you need a vast amount of evidence to contradict everything that I've experienced and know from you know reality.
Mhm.
Now apply that same thing to evolution. That's the thing.
I
Uh,
know, but how much time
Well,
have you spent
you haven't
diving into
presented.
the?
Well, I mean, I do feel like I've looked at the counterclaims. There's one that they
You didn't even
say,
know about dinosaur soft tissue.
That's
yeah,
true. I
but
didn't know about that.
dinosaur soft tissue, I don't like. The one that I know about is finding a fossil outside of a certain time period in the geological record.
Well,
So,
there's another problem. The geological record is it doesn't exist on Earth. Like the stuff you see in the biology books and all that
mhm.
stuff, where it's like the newest stuff is up here, the oldest stuff is down here. That doesn't exist on Earth. There's places on the planet where they're just completely jumbled up. There's places on the planet where
Yeah,
they're
because
completely
of
upside
plate
down.
tectonics, we
Yeah,
know this
yeah,
stuff.
bull. Yeah, right.
See, he just dismisses that stuff.
It's because it's hogwash, dude. You think that freaking the entire planet is just like mixing itself up constantly?
I mean,
Yes.
parts of it, yeah, I would assume.
Well, parts of it, okay, parts of it, but it can't
Hmm.
be. Then that geological record should be somewhere, and it's just not.
I
The
thought there were places that I could have swore there's distinct places, especially in like deserts, where they can just look and you can see there's just the chunks, and it is not mixed up, and it's just completely,
Well, you might
segregated.
have chunks, but you don't have the whole record.
Well, but it wouldn't, is it because the plates are moving because of weather? Like you wouldn't have the entire planet wouldn't be so segregated. You just have areas that are immune to those, like weather effects, or plate tectonics would have that, right?
Oh. You can also go back to the fact that that entire thing is based on circular reasoning.
How
How do you
so?
know how old that layer is?
I don't know. What do they do? Do they use carbon dating or something?
No, you can't carbon date things that are over 50,000 years old. Something's 500 million years old. How do you know
Hmm.
how do you know how old that layer is?
I don't know. I don't know how they do any
By
of this stuff.
what you find in it.
Hmm.
How do you know how old what you find in it is? By what layer it's in.
Well, the thing is,
That's circular reasoning.
well, they have certain markers because of certain events. Like obviously the KT boundary is the big event that they look at when the meteor struck the Earth or the asteroid struck the Earth and let basically a level of a layer of silt over the entire Earth. That is a very recognizable boundary. So they usually count from that. They're not counting from what's in the layer. They're saying, look, this event took place 65 million years ago, and we can
How do
see
you know
this.
that?
Well, that's when they pinpointed it.
Because it's where?
I don't.
It's under a particular layer.
Look.
And how do you know that layer is how old it is? Because of what you find in it. And how do you know how old is what
Well,
you
I
find in
mean,
it? Because it's in that layer.
if
It's
there's
all circular reasoning, dude.
it's
Can't
not
escape
circular
that.
reasoning though. If there's some wiggle room on whether or not it was 65 million years ago or 60 million years ago or whatever they've settled upon through various forms of dating
Assumptions and guess.
methodology. Look at this. You're just trying to undermine this stuff. They still can go anywhere in the world and start digging and find this layer that's consistent all over the
Okay,
globe.
I'm not debating that there's a layer. I'm
Okay.
debating the dating of
So
the layer.
something took place at that particular time, right?
Well, I know of a global flood. I don't know of any other, you know.
Okay.
See, here's another interesting thing.
Did the
Do you
flood
believe in
did the
theories?
flood
Do
lay
you
down
believe
a layer?
you don't think so?
I mean,
Do you believe in theories
it
or do you
would
believe
have.
in
I think
what do you put
probably.
more
Yeah,
weight
why
on?
not?
Eyewitnesses in history
The
or
global flood layer.
theories?
Well, I would never believe an eyewitness because eyewitnesses are horribly unreliable.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
Okay, but how do
probably
you know if something in history actually happened?
well, we don't exactly, but
We know the
there
line
probably
how
is
do
was
you
there.
a
know?
massive
Okay,
flood
for
because, the
example,
ice age ended and all that water had to go
let me
somewhere.
give you an
So,
example. The Third Crusade, right? Um, Charles was it Charles Martel, right? Goes to
Dorne?
Acre. Was it
Oh.
Acre or Joppa? It might have been Joppa. And
I think people might want to move on to politics, but go ahead and finish your thought.
okay, it's just this incredibly insane story. He's there with literally like 20 knights and a bunch of spearmen and whatever. And then on the other side, you've got what's his name? Salahadin with like literally thousands of people. And the thousands of people come to try to take out Charles Martel, but because of the way he kind of worked out his plan, he's holding it's like 300, right? He's like holding these people off and they get so dispirited, they can't tell what's going on. And so eventually Charles is just like, screw it, let's go. And so they freaking charge these thousands of people. The entire line breaks and all of Salahadin's army runs away and is defeated by literally like 20 knights. How do you know this isn't fantasy or some made up thing? Because Charles Martel's scribe wrote it down and Salahadin's scribe wrote it down from the other side. Salahadin said he only had 17 knights.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Sure.
know this happened because disparate recordings registered it in the historical record and they corroborate each other.
Right. We will. I wouldn't say
Well,
we
and
know, but I'd say
contradict.
there's a good chance that like there's good evidence for it.
There's
Right.
300 global flood stories about a single family that saves the angry god single family on an ark or a boat or a canoe, whatever it is,
Hmm.
and wipes out all the life on Earth from 300 disparate people groups around the planet that had nothing to do with each other. If you believe in evolution, if you believe they all came from the same source, then that makes sense.
Well, as I
It's the
said,
single most
right.
corroborated historical event in mankind.
Right. Well, as I said, there was a flood because we were in an ice age and then now we're not. And so all that ice melted and
Yeah, but
the
all the
water had to
other,
go somewhere.
but all the specifics are they're not all in all 300 myths, but all the specifics are in like 120 of them.
Okay, so the ones I've seen, because I don't know the exact 120. The ones I've seen, there's just been various flood myths that are similar in that there's flood myths, not that there's exactly like, they one guy got on a boat and got two of every animal. I'm not familiar
Well,
with that being
that
the
I think
exact
the things that get
replication.
corroborated are that an angry god floods the entire earth,
Right.
um, and one family is saved.
Sure, but that doesn't seem
Right.
that like extraordinary for people. Like if there is a massive flood, which I'm assuming there was because the ice age ended, it's not that extraordinary for people to create a story around that involves a family escaping.
Well,
Well, the
I mean,
question
you
though
you
is
can you
if
can go
it's
and
the
look at
whole world, obviously.
some of them are a lot closer than others. The Mao people in China has a very very accurate to the Bible story.
Hmm.
Gilgamesh has some corroborative stuff.
So I
Um,
just want to look. I was looking up because the whole rock thing was curious to me. So yeah, it says that when you're carbon dating, the limitation is 58 to 62,000 years, but they use all sorts of different dating methods where they look at different isotopes, and those can go up to like millions and millions of years, and that's what they use to make these longer calculations for like the age of the Earth.
and have you looked up how those can be either corrupted or wrong?
I'm sure there are, of course, I'm assuming they would be. It's a
Yeah,
measuring the
that's
decay rate of electrons. I assume is a very delicate thing to do.
yeah. It's like the same thing with carbon dating. It's like the things that we know the absolute dates of that get carbon dated, they're never carbon dated accurately.
Well, I don't know if I can. I would have to see specifically. I don't know if I can agree with that. If they can do like this, uranium lead dating for 700 million years or whatever, and look at the isotopes, I'm assuming this has been done several times. I wouldn't think that
I
they
don't know
would just mess it
what
up
is,
every
but
single time.
what's the fact that shows you that that dating is accurate?
They're saying, well, based on how these isotopes decay, they say, okay, it takes X amount of time to do that for these isotopes or this element to decay
As
and to shed these elements or shed these isotopes. And so then they say, well, what stage is it at? And they compare it to something. And then they say, oh, well, there you go. That's the age.
Yeah, that's assuming the decay is a constant and has been for all
Right.
time.
Well,
Again,
based on what we
all
can
this stuff is
observe,
based
sure.
on
Right.
assumptions. Yeah,
Right.
right. But we have a very limited time scale to base any of these assumptions on.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's all we can work with.
Yeah. So
Maybe
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, we could all be
I wouldn't
living in
put that much
a
weight into it.
dream conjured by a demon. Like, I mean, but we can't really operate according to
Well,
that
we do live in a
idea.
hologram.
Right. We could all be in a simulation somewhere, but I don't think it's useful. Like, we have to just work with what we have.
Right. But would you base your eternal soul on it?
Well, I mean, I'm not only just believe in God, I'm a theist, but I do believe in evolution, and I'm totally fine. I don't feel like I'm betting my soul on it by believing that
I
that's
know,
the
but
way the world works.
I'm kind of being hyperbolic. It's like how much faith do you put into something that is based on something that you know logically has to be an assumption?
I would put more faith in that than just the collective works of stories from people thousands of years ago, which are just, stories that were, sent down throughout families by just storytelling verbally until they were eventually written down and were very susceptible to human biases and politics at the time.
Are you referring to the Bible?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You know that the Bible is the single most authenticated um, document in all of antiquity.
Okay, that doesn't. What I don't know has to do with what I said.
Authenticated how? By who?
Well,
Did
not
they use
Meaning that
authenticated,
carbon
but
dating?
okay, no,
replicated.
you don't have to carbon date it. This whole thing about, oh, it's been, changed and whatever over time. The Jews believed with all of their heart, soul, and mind that these was the will and word of God. And when they wrote and copied each copy of the scriptures, they went through, it was a ritual to copy, the scribes copying one scripture to the other. They would put a dowel on one letter, they would copy that letter exactly, they'd move the dowel over, they did it, blah, blah, blah. Anytime they came to the name of God, they would break their quill, they would ritually bathe, they would get a new quill, and they would write the name of God in
Right.
purity and
Right.
cleanness. After
So
that, and it would take like
Oh
6 months to
my
copy a
God.
scroll,
I know
right?
I can imagine this is a very extensive process. But what I
Yeah.
said was
No, no, no. What
I'm
I'm
getting
saying is,
ready to
I
write
know,
the
but wait,
word
this
God.
isn't what I was talking about. I said you have a stories that were for many years passed down verbally before they were ever written down. I mean, you look at there's evidence that shows that the Jews originally believed in multiple gods. There's evidence that Jews believed that multiple gods existed and that their God was just the superior God. There's no evidence that the Jews were ever even in Egypt at the time that, the Bible thinks that says that they were in the time. So to me, it makes more sense that you have humans who are basically, these flawed creatures that are trying to understand the world, using these stories to understand that and to understand human struggles. And if you're saying, well, I'm going to compare that to, the flawed assumptions of, isotope measuring, I'm going to go on the isotope measuring.
well, my reason for becoming a Christian when I was raised an agnostic was because, well, first of all, I don't need to go the whole thing. I'll just go to the evidence part. I started the idea that there was a God was opened to me through an answered prayer, which
Mm-hmm.
was like, and then another answered prayer. And then I was like, okay, there might be something to this. So I started
Sure.
looking into it. And so before I even read the Bible, I just started researching the various claims of the Bible. The claims that it's inerrant, the claims that it's got prophecy, the claims of scientific and medical foreknowledge, all of these things that show that this book was written either, by time traveling aliens determined to fool the world or by a higher power that calls itself Yahweh. Uh, and so I went with the God thing, and it's there's no scientific fact that can be that contradicts the Bible, and I can challenge you guys to throw one at me.
Well, I don't know
Um,
enough. I don't know what fact claims are made about science in the Bible that would be contradictory, but
there's medical foreknowledge in the Bible at a time when Egypt was telling they found papyrus in Egypt of medical, like what you're supposed, dude, they put freaking human feces on open sores and crap like that. This is like what doctors were doing in Egypt at the time of Moses. But he goes out there and he gets this revelation from God of all these what you call ritual laws, right? Like
Mhm.
when you cook meat in a metal pan, you're to ritually wash that in running water. If you cook meat in a clay pot, you are to destroy it afterwards, right? Why? Didn't know anything about freaking bacteria back then, right? But we do. And if you cook something in a clay pot, it's got very porous, it's going to build
Right.
up bacteria, it's going to kill you. Um, the don't eat shellfish. That's not because shellfish isn't, I mean, it's delicious, right? But you get freaking
You can
flesh
get
eating
sick from it.
bacteria. You can get all kinds of sicknesses from eating raw shellfish,
Right.
even cooked shellfish at
They
times.
said, was it don't eat things that like feed off the bottom and the
Yeah,
waste of
no,
other things.
no
Yeah.
bottom feeders. I
Sure.
mean, all these things that didn't wouldn't make sense if you didn't understand, modern medicine,
Well,
that they're
but
all in the
okay,
Bible.
but my issue with that is like, I mean, we could look at farming, when farming first came about and how humans kind of figured it out. Humans like bet like, thousands and thousands of years ago when they first figured out how to farm, they didn't understand the scientific principles necessarily of what was making it work. They were doing trial and error, and they're saying, "Oh, this works, this doesn't work." Trial and error.
I mean, that's a fair argument, and it totally makes sense.
Right. So
However,
I'd
you
say it's
have
the
to
same
keep in
thing with
mind.
like the cooking. Like, you
Well,
have,
well,
Jews for
again,
thousands of years cooking in certain things, cooking certain foods, saying, "Oh, see, people get sick when they eat this, they don't get sick when they eat that."
Yeah. If they adopt some form of cooking that makes everyone sick and kills everyone, then that religion doesn't survive.
well, they were doing it in Egypt. They ate pork, they ate shellfish, right? They
Right.
ate freaking whatever because it's delicious. But
Hmm. Yeah, but for whatever
but
reasons, the Jews had, or the people that became the Jews had different experiences where they said, "Oh, it looks like people from our estimation are getting sick." I would argue that instead of them hearing God tell them specifically, "Don't do this," it was after the fact, them noticing that people were doing these behaviors, getting sick, and then they said, "Oh, well, this is unclean," right? Because they don't
mm,
say like, "Oh, this is unclean," because there are tiny microorganisms that live in there that poison you. They say, "Oh, this is unclean," and God just tells you not to do it. Like, period. There's
right,
not like
but
an
none of these
explanation.
little ritual laws, first of all, they weren't anywhere else on the planet. Every other
Mhm.
culture on Earth would eat whatever was walking, crawling, or
Well, I
whatever,
mean, I'm
right?
assuming there are other cultures that had other, cleanliness
Prohibitions, yeah.
rituals that were maybe not exactly the same, but were probably similar-ish.
But are they all so accurate,
I have no idea.
right?
I don't
Here's
know
another
what
one.
religions. I mean,
Um,
Isn't Judaism one of the oldest religions still around? That's like widely practiced.
yeah, probably, huh?
So I mean, I don't know what the other. I don't know if it's a religious thing. I just know like in Asian culture, especially I think in China, like in Japan, they have a lot more cleanliness related to them, practices than like the Europeans
I'm
do.
Japanese. You
Like
know the kind of unclean stuff we eat.
no, but I mean in terms of like
We don't
baths.
even
Like, a
cook it,
lot of the
bro.
Europeans didn't like take baths, pretty regularly. Where in
Yeah,
Japan, they're like,
yeah,
what the fuck?
yeah, yeah. There's another one though that's very interesting, and it's circumcision.
Right.
So, on two fronts here. First of all, the eighth day of life is the day when an infant's immune system peaks. The eighth day of life is the day where a male child in Judaism is supposed to be circumcised.
Hmm.
Also, and I can't, it was like 100 years ago or something like that. Some doctor started noticing that none of his Jewish patients, he was an OBGYN, none of his Jewish patients were getting cervical cancer. And he discovered, or he figured out, it's because their husbands were circumcised. So there's no bacteria that, you know, in people who obviously we bathe a lot more nowadays than we did 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. Um,
Right.
but there's a little pocket there where bacteria can form that can cause sickness and illness in a woman if it's aptly delivered, if you know what I'm talking about. Uh, and that is why circumcision became common medical practice in America. I'm not Jewish, but I'm circumcised. It's like it became just across the board. Every circumcise them all. And it was because that one doctor realized that this bizarre ritual that the Jews did was saving their wives' lives.
Hmm.
What would it
Okay.
take for you to change your mind, Mike, on any particular perspective that you have?
Overwhelming evidence.
Okay, so you do admit like it's evidence that you're
Oh,
focusing
I
on.
mean, dude, that's otherwise I'd still be an agnostic.
Well, part of the problem I think we have as humans is we're biased towards only looking at the evidence that confirms what we want to believe and then,
Sure.
sidelining any evidence that could
Sure, but like I said,
possibly.
that's why I was willing to look at the flat Earth stuff. It's like I have an open mind.
Right.
If you can bombard me with enough evidence that what I think is wrong, I will change my mind.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Do you want to talk about politics, Sitch? You want to talk
Sure.
about
Sure.
some
Yeah.
current
No,
stories?
I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
But
Mike has a interesting perspective on a lot of people in the chat are like, I feel like I've tuned into 2014. Obviously, there was a Did you follow the atheist creationist debates on YouTube in 2014, Mike? Maybe you watched some of those.
Like Christopher Hitchens and Dinesh
Yeah,
D'Souza and that kind of
sure.
stuff. Oh
Of
yeah, I
course.
love those things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess I was on the
I
other
love
sides of those
Christopher Hitchens,
debates.
man. I was so bummed. He was my favorite atheist. No offense, but he was my favorite
Well,
atheist.
part of the part of the I'm in a unique perspective here because part of the problem I have with those debates is a lot of the arguments that atheists make a lot of people on the atheist side kind of fell into a perspective that the world would be a better place without religion, and that biased
Didn't we
them.
try that last
Well,
century?
yeah, obviously there's a lot of evidence that religion curbs people's nastier inclinations
Yeah.
that the atheists overlook or the anti-theists overlook. I try to separate atheists from anti-theists because I do believe there's a sect of people that are just, I don't believe in God, but I don't want to disparage people from who are religious. And there are the anti-theists who really want to like see religion wiped out. And
And
I just,
you appreciate the practical application of
yeah,
religious
yeah, yeah.
doctrine.
It makes people who, like myself included, tend towards, you know, being selfish and self-centered and lack humility and all the things that can turn society into a terrible place to live. They kind of curb those behaviors. And a lot of atheists, I feel like they deny that, and they're so sanctimonious about it.
Yeah.
It's like you're the least humble person I've ever seen. Like you could use a little touch of that, Jesus in your life,
Yeah.
Stop
Yeah, and
being
even if
such
you
a
like, even if
pretentious
you,
prick.
as you tend to do, even if you secularize, like, religious doctrines, say the Lord's Prayer, right? Even if you secularize the Lord's Prayer, the
Hmm.
practical applications of being grateful, of confessing, in other words, introspecting on what you've done wrong, um, you know, and putting other people first, dude. This it's just practical application stuff that just will make you not just your life but everybody's life around you better.
Like humility and sacrifice and that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
see, this is why I said Christianity gets the psychology right. I want to address Moto Mit Gonzo in the chat says I thought you were Team Truth, Adam. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that a lot of the atheist community, they would stand under the banner of science, but when a lot of science came out that proved, religion was, a pro-social
And net positive.
institution, yeah, net positive for society, a lot of those people, they weren't Team Truth. They denied it because they internalized a new religion that was the anti-religion religion. Yeah, which like I said, I had no problem saying I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. I haven't really thought about it much for years. I guess the real answer to that is just the evidence I've not found the evidence for God persuasive enough to say I believe in God. So, yeah, no, I'm definitely Team Truth. And what bothers me about the anti-theist community is they are decidedly not Team Truth. I think Mike, like I said, we're having a discussion here. I don't think Mike is correct. I don't think what Mike is saying is, scientifically accurate. A lot of times if you want to use the word true, you're getting into a definitions game over what truth is.
Well, I'm just giving information about what's in the Bible. You can speculate like you have that came about through natural means or historic, whatever it is, societal
Mhm.
means. Or you can say, you know, take it for what I'm saying. It's like this was delivered to a guy who came from a place where their doctors were telling people to smear feces on their wounds, and dwelt in the wilderness for 40 years, and then he was handed these laws from on high. Now you could just say that was all somehow spread out over time. But it's like, dude, there's Bible prophecy. There's, like I said, scientific medical foreknowledge. It's all this kind of stuff that made me lean towards this book can't have just simply have arisen through. And that's my conclusion. Now your conclusion is your own. I'm not forcing you to believe whatever, but it's like I looked on that stuff with seeking eyes and from an agnostic of somehow or another over the course of probably a year of going through all this stuff.
You were going through
I was just convinced.
You were going through some hard times?
Oh, absolutely not.
Oh, okay.
No.
I mean, obviously a lot of people do turn to religion when they're
yeah, no, dude. I
which...
always pray that people come to faith the way I just being blessed into it. Like, cause dude, my wife was, you've seen my wife. She was the voodoo model at the time. I was like, I was living in San Diego. I was making more money than I possibly needed. I was high on the hog, dude. I was having a great life, but I was just interested in this stuff, and so I kept studying it and researching it and verifying it, and it all just got to the point I was convinced, and there it is.
Let me read some super chats related to what we're talking about. Spankus for $5 says there's evidence of a global flood. However, it's older than 6,000 years old. Graham Hancock details his evidence on
that. I know, I watched that.
Yeah, Graham's an interesting guy. I don't know how much I believe from what he says, but it's fun to listen
to. Dude, I used to listen to him back when he would be a regular guest on Art Bell. I loved Art Bell.
Cameraman 502 for $15 says carbon-14 isn't the only radiometric dating. Others include KAR or UPB, which can date crystalline rock that sets known boundaries and uses uniformitarianism to estimate the dates of the sedimentary. So there you go.
That's the thing that you looked up, right?
Yeah.
Nice. Thanks.
And then Stug for $10 says, relate to that, the argument that it is an assumption that carbon dating is constant is not true. The reason there is uncertainty in the date at all is because the decay is not consistent and fluctuates. So I think Stug's saying that the fluctuation is why they give a range of the time period, not this exact.
It decays based on environment, correct?
I don't know what I would assume something like that. Yeah. D52820 for $2 says fantastic guess. Thumbs up.
Nice.
Cameraman 502 for $5 says even St. Augustine believed the creation account was about God's authority and not a direct retelling. Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that as a Jew, I was unfamiliar that a lot of Christians didn't believed from that perspective about the creation account or about the original sin too. So it's kind of interesting. Stuck for $5 says, I would ask Mark if he believes Andromeda 1 exists and 2 is a galaxy, and if so, 3, how far is the Andromeda galaxy from Earth?
I don't have it memorized.
Well, I guess I'm assuming the question is about like if the Earth is
about light years away and
yeah,
how did the light get here from blah blah
right.
blah. Yeah. There's actually a theory, but again, it's theory. But how much of this is that there's a 0 point to the universe, right? Like the singularity point, and that at the singularity point, time is still 0. And then at the edge of the galaxy or the edge of the universe, time is whatever, 18 billion years old or whatever, because time is not a constant. Time can be altered, right? Time is like if you set 2 atomic clocks, even gravity alters time.
Right.
You set 2 atomic clocks on 2 planes, and they've done this, and you send them around the world in different directions, and then they time changes.
Yeah, time's affected by space and gravity.
Right. So there's that speculation that because the time is pulled, the universe has been expanding out. Obviously, the faster it goes, the faster the time will be, right? So 18 billion, 18 billion, whatever years out at the edge, the oldest at the edge, 0 point at the middle, and that Earth is somewhere in the 6,000 to 10,000 year range or whatever.
Okay. Interesting. So okay, so you're saying that there could be parts of the universe that are that old, but the
Right.
Earth is only 6,000.
Right. Because
And
time is
then
mutable.
the light would travel to us via
Because of
some,
the way it's expanding out. This is something really
right.
weird to me
Hmm.
that kind of the flat Earth people brought up, but not that I believe that. But it's like in our records of like constellations and stuff, how's the constellation still the same, even essentially, if we're constantly moving around the universe and everything else is constantly moving? I don't know. It's just something that was weird to me. I was like, how's that still there? Inscribed in a wall 4,000 years ago somewhere, and it's like we still got that same. You know what I mean?
I don't know how much, like, I don't know, like the speed of like the like, well, the constellations are in our galaxy, and the galaxy is
Are they all?
moving. I don't think by the naked eye. I'm assuming, I could be wrong. I'm assuming we
Oh,
can't
so
see something.
none of the stars from the constellations are themselves galaxies outside of our
No,
galaxy.
no, I meant like they're not. Yeah, they're not outside of our galaxy. All the stars we see are in our galaxy. I'm
Oh, okay.
assuming.
Yeah, I don't
So
know.
it could. I'm assuming that would mean that like we're in the galaxy is moving, is, even though everything in the galaxies are moving separately, the galaxy itself is moving as a whole unit, isn't it? I believe so. Therefore, the constellations would, unless there's some like catastrophic, celestial event, the constellations would remain relatively similar, I would think, from our perspective.
Yeah, maybe it's just not that much time.
Yeah, yeah, maybe.
Anyways, go on.
Okay. Daily Dose for $5 says, has Mike read Mark Twain's critique of the Bible? If so, thoughts. If not, please do. Why is it bad to assume science is true but not the Bible?
No, I do assume science is true. I just don't believe every theory is factual.
Right.
Maybe that's for us. Why is it bad to assume science is true but not the Bible? Maybe that's for
Uh,
us.
well, it's not. I mean, I don't know. It depends what the. I don't know if it's bad. I don't know if I'd use the word bad or good. It's just a question of. I have more faith in science in terms of I believe that humans are incredibly flawed animals in how we perceive reality, and the scientific method is sort of a way to try to do what we can to compensate for our perceptual flaws. So that's why I put a little bit more faith in it.
Well, I mean, I just base everything on evidence, obviously. Science, there's a lot of really bad science out there.
Of
So
course,
it
of
bugs
course.
me that people today are, like I said, this is what bugged me about the anti-theists. They were literally standing, under the banner of science and saying, science says this and that, but ignoring the science whenever it disagreed with them.
Science is their god.
Well, it can't be if they're just willing to throw it away at the first sign of trouble, right?
Well, they're
Well,
fickle.
the issue is that like science is a tool in which we try to derive truth from, and it's the tool in which like at least a lot of people will accept as a way of discerning what is true. And
Yeah,
so when
right.
people try to push certain things, whether it be political things or philosophical concepts, they're going to try to use the tool that people use to discern truth, quote unquote, science, and then to justify what they already want to be true.
Yeah.
So,
To me, it seems that the overwhelming evidence proves religion is an adaptation that is useful and helpful to people. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist. And I know a lot of the atheists, anti-theists will say, well, it was useful in the past. We don't know that it's still useful today. Which, I mean, I disagree with fundamentally. I mean, if it was as costly and dangerous as they make out to be, then I don't think it would still be with us.
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, have you read Mark Twain's critique of the Bible? I have
I have
not
not.
yet. Okay. Um, Anonymous Coward for $20. Thank you, Anonymous Coward. Says, I just have to say I'm working listening to this right now, and I don't know what's going on, but I think I'll stick with the more based Yakubian story for my truth. Well, there you go.
Oh
What is
no.
that?
Yeah. The Yakub, the Nation of Islam, white people were bred to be evil story. So,
Obviously,
Man,
the
I've been going
jokes.
back and forth with this guy who's part of the Black Israelites faith thing on Facebook. It's like,
oh, really? Yeah, I think they believe
wow,
some version of the Yakub story too. Yeah.
these guys are like I'm like, you pretty much have to ignore all of history for what you're saying to be true. He's like, no, 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 but it's true. It's like, do you know who came up with that? It was like some black dude in Harlem in 1963 or something like that came
Mhm.
up with this whole thing, and somehow it became this movement that Israel is from South Africa. I'm like,
Yes, yes. Well, I think part of the dangers of human perception is it's very easy for us to have like what we want to be true, and then we kind of look back and we fit the pieces backwards to kind of
yeah,
to fit the narrative. And I think with the Nation of Islam people, I mean, it's definitely, in order to craft the narrative that like everyone was black, until a couple thousand years ago.
yeah,
I think you're
right.
gonna have to work pretty hard to do that. But Texas SP12 for $20 says my wife goes to church with me because she knows it's more pro-social at the end of the day. For me, I'm glad because I sanctify us as believers, as in 1 Corinthians 7:14. So there you go. Lord Tenson's Pipe for $5 says all of you should read Mere Christianity and the Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis. He is one of the greatest Christian writers of all time. God bless.
Yeah, Mere Christianity is great. I never made it all the way through Screw Tape Letters. I should probably give that another go.
Mm-hmm.
I read Lawrence Southern recommended The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis, and I actually found the audiobook, and it was pretty good.
C.S. Lewis is great.
Not a big, Christian person, but I mean, it was good as a story, definitely.
So in the political front, that's related. Today, there was, I believe it was today, there was a circuit court that has jurisdiction over Florida and Georgia ruled that it was constitutional and allowed for a public school to sex segregate bathrooms and locker rooms according to sex, and to not allow like a trans woman into the woman's locker room and a trans man into the boys' locker room. And it's interesting because I didn't realize this because I was actually reading the court case, because I know other circuit courts across the country have ruled opposite that. So now I'm curious to read what their justification is, because my understanding was that under the argument for Title IX, it's in the Civil Rights Act, it says you can't discriminate on the basis of sex. And the argument was, technically, when it comes to trans people, you are discriminating on the basis of
Gender.
sex, because you're saying, oh, you're sex stereotyping that someone of this specific sex should, behave and look and act, I guess, in a certain way. And so by, leaving them out of specific spaces, you'd essentially be discriminating against sex.
That's so ass backward.
Well, it's based off of an idea like, so the original concept for that came from a lawsuit that had nothing to do with transgender. It had to do with a woman was suing her employer because her employer was mandating that all women had to wear dresses to work there. And she was saying that's discrimination. And the court essentially said it is discrimination because you're sex stereotyping. You're saying that all women have to wear a certain outfit. If that individual was a man, they wouldn't have to wear that outfit. So therefore, you're making a judgment based on their sex alone. And I mean, that makes sense to me in that regard. That argument got applied to being gay, and that makes sense to me in that regard. The problem I have is I think the argument logically makes sense in regards to transgender issues, but I still think that there are certain things in which it shouldn't apply to transgender issues specifically. Like one of the big cases was a guy was this like really big fat guy, which is kind of important in the story, was transitioning to a woman, and he worked at a funeral home, and he worked at like the front of the funeral home, and they fired him because they didn't want people who are grieving to kind of be distracted by, I guess what I can say is an ugly fat guy transitioning to be a woman. And I think that's well, but that's kind of important. That's part of the story. Like,
of course,
if they passed really well, I mean, you didn't notice, it wouldn't really be an issue. But you have this big fat guy, it's kind of like, okay. And I think that's fair. And I think
couldn't you just put him in the back to drain the blood?
Yeah, there you go.
Here's your new job. We're not firing you.
But the interesting thing about the sort of case today was that I didn't realize this. There's actually an exemption, a specific exemption in title or in the codes and regulations in federal law that says that public schools can specifically segregate by sex, bathrooms, locker rooms, and living facilities. So to me, that should kind of, I don't know how people get around that. That should definitely give states the ability to segregate bathrooms on the basis of birth sex, if there's a specific exemption for that.
Yeah, are you? I mean, we've talked about this before, and you're kind of more on the. You should let people use the bathroom with the way they present.
Yeah, well, my the thing is like I understand this like the sports argument to me makes sense. Trans women, especially considering when like they start transitioning and whether they went through puberty or not, participating in women's sports to me, like obviously there's going to be an advantage conferred to them. When it comes to like the bathroom stuff and the locker room stuff, because we've gone back and forth this, I understand women saying that they're like uncomfortable or whatever, but I just don't care. I feel like I
All,
just don't
but
care.
all the Leah
Well,
Thomas
when it's your
swimmers.
daughter in the in
Yeah,
there with the
exactly.
man,
There you go.
I
So
I
do you
don't,
know
but
about the
what,
Leah
what's the
Thomas stuff, Mike? Where
but
like
no, but here
Leah,
here's the problem. So like okay, so the question is okay, so you have a woman or your daughter, she's in the girls' locker room, and
and you got
and
lady dick all over the place,
there's a student that's around their age that's male or whatever in the locker room too.
flaunting
And
it.
well, there's a difference between flaunt like okay,
Look at my
bragging
lady
it.
penis.
right, but that's a whole different thing. And the idea is like okay, so you see someone in there with penis who's a trans woman, and it rises in you a fear that you could be like sexually assaulted
Sexually
or
assaulted.
something,
Yeah,
right?
there you go.
But
why
the problem,
wait, why don't we let boys into girls' locker rooms?
well, because what do you mean?
Why not just let boys into girls' locker rooms?
Because we believe in sex segregated spaces generally, yeah.
Okay, so then
For
what's the
the
argument
sake of
of
people
if a
being
boy if
embarrassed,
a
for the
boy
sake of
wants to dress up as a girl, why would you
Mhm.
let him into a girls' locker room?
If he just wants to dress up as a girl,
Well, that's what it is.
well, no, it's someone. Well, it depends as whether they really have gender dysphoria or not. Do you not believe gender dysphoria is real?
Well, that's not even the case. It's if even if you're gender dysphoric, that doesn't mean you have to dress up as a girl.
Well, it doesn't mean you have to do anything, but
You
if you
do it
want
because you
to,
want to,
presumably
because
go
you
about
want
the
to. And
treatment
when you
that
break it
we
all down,
believe
it's a
works now.
desire.
Oh,
So, bottom
okay,
line, they want to dress up like a girl.
sure, but when
It's
you
okay for you to
the
let them in.
implication when you say like they want to dress up as a girl, sort of like that kind of so like minimizes, like kind of like
Well, I'm
demedicalizes
more or less
the
just boiling
procedure.
it down.
Well, no, that's like saying like, okay, if someone, you know, is if Kanye West is bipolar, and it's like, well, this you say like, oh, well, they have a desire to take their medication to not be bipolar. It's like, well, I mean, I guess, but I wouldn't
I
frame
have a
it
better
that way.
example. Uh, would it be okay for Bruce Jenner to go into the girls' bathroom with your 10-year-old daughter?
Sure.
And make out.
Of course not.
And
Not
whip
make
out his
out, but
willy right next to her while he's doing his business.
well, first of all, if you're in the ladies' bathroom, I'm assuming they don't
Bruce
have
Jenner,
they don't have
not
urinals,
Caitlyn
but
Jenner, Bruce Jenner.
you're saying pre
Yeah,
transition? No. No.
nope. But Bruce Jenner was a transgender. He just chose not to wear the women's clothes all the time.
I wonder if that would change such if you really had
So
a
what
daughter.
is the difference? Now, Bruce Jenner
Mhm.
puts on a wig and women's clothes. Is it okay for him to go into the bathroom with your 10-year-old daughter?
Well, I think the problem, and Chappelle kind of brings this up in the his stand up. It's like if I'm in the bathroom as a guy and there's like a person that's like a chick in there, and I'm like, why is there a chick in the men's bathroom? Like to me, that's more distracting and more confusing than if there's someone who is, presenting as a woman in the woman's bathroom in a stall somewhere.
Yeah, I guess that's a matter of like passing.
Sure, but that kind of plays
Right?
a part,
But I'm
in
getting to
the
the
conversation.
fundamental because you just said no, it's not okay for Bruce, but Bruce is a transgender.
Yeah, but what
He just
was
isn't
what
dressed as a girl at the time,
right.
but it's not okay for him. But if he puts on a girl's dress, it's okay for him.
Yeah, because that change. Well, it's not this question of just putting on a dress.
It literally is.
because the question is,
It was for Bruce Jenner for years, up until just a scant few years ago. He was a transgender who presented as a male, but if he puts on a wig and a dress, that somehow formologically changes him so that it's okay for that man to be in a bathroom with your 10-year-old daughter.
so the problem, I think we have to get to the real root of the issue here. We're not quite at yet. And the real root of the issue is that there's, as I was getting to, is that there's this fear of assault, essentially. That's underlying all
Because
this
it
stuff.
happens.
Right. And so, but my problem with that argument is that to me, that doesn't, it's not consistent because A, we don't have separate bathrooms or locker rooms for gay people in the first place. And I don't think we should. And then B, anyone can go into any bathroom and try to assault or rape someone. You don't have to like pretend to be, the opposite sex.
No, but if you're a girl going into a girl's bathroom, it's a little harder to rape someone. But if you're a man going into a girl's bathroom,
well, it's harder. I assume it's harder for a girl to rape a man.
you just lock the
generally,
door
but
and
not
you're
always.
fair game.
It's easy for a woman to rape a man. What are you talking? You just ask him.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
No, I'm talking about women raping women. If they're all women in there, the rape aspect
obviously,
goes out the window.
yeah.
No,
Unless
but
one of
any
them has
guy
a
can
cigar.
any guy can walk into the woman's bathroom and try to drag a woman to a stall.
Yeah, and
attempt to
then
rape
we
her.
would
Yeah.
burn him at the stake.
But that's the same if they were a trans woman.
Burn him at the stake?
If they try to
you
rape
can't
somebody.
really do that. You'd be labeled a bigot.
No, not if they try to rape somebody. What do you mean?
I mean, this situation happened at the Wii Spa. You know about the Wii Spa situation where the guy...
Yeah, but that person. Yeah, I understand that person was a weird
Yes.
serial flasher
There
pervert.
was
Right?
there was an article, I think this morning or yesterday, about some trans person going into a woman's room taking pictures under the stalls of all the... It's like...
Okay, I don't. Yeah, but that's like saying, okay, if there's a gay guy in the bathroom that's doing the same thing to men, I mean, is that, do we say, okay, well, now by law, gay people can't be in the bathroom with straight people? Like, I don't, how does that affect
Sitch
the
always
argument
has these
overall?
good arguments.
I don't understand how that
terrible.
affects the overall argument.
Well, that's...
Like, if someone does an action that is illegal or they're not supposed to do, well, then they're not supposed to do it.
Right. But in the case of girls getting raped in bathrooms,
Mhm.
that's completely avoided if you don't let boys in there.
Yeah, but there's not like, when you go to a bathroom in a building or school or something, there's not like a security guard standing in front of the door that's like, no, boys not allowed. Like anyone could just walk in there as long as no one's like paying attention.
Yeah. It's not like I've never gone into a girl's bathroom.
Well, there you go.
It's like the boys.
Accidentally,
dude's
you're
been
like,
in there
what am
way
I
too
doing? Oh,
long.
shit. I'm in the wrong
Right.
bathroom.
No, but it's like a single bathroom. If it's like a, I'm not going.
So, Sitch, you think this is... what are the politics around this? This was in Florida this happened?
Yeah. There was
Okay.
actually a case of a trans. Well, I think in this specific case, I don't agree with the lawsuit. It was a trans boy, so they're born female and they're transitioning to be a boy, who was in a school, and the school specifically had bathrooms for boys, girls, and also bathrooms that would be available for trans students specifically.
Really?
And I don't have a problem with that alternative.
So, and they got sued because they were like, I don't want to use the trans bathroom.
They didn't
I
want to
wanna-"
use the specific.
It should just be the
bathroom.
everybody bathroom.
Yeah, the co-ed bathroom.
That wasn't.
I mean, like in a store, it's called the family bathroom, or at the mall, it's the family bathroom.
Right.
It's anybody. Who cares?
Yeah, that's what they
It's a
that's what they
frickin'
essentially
toilet.
had. That's what they had. They had like the single. I'm assuming it was a single stall
The
unisex.
disabled bathroom.
Yeah,
disabled
like
/ trans bathroom.
You've seen this like everywhere. It's like they've just been taking urinals out of bathrooms. That's and then they put the boy girl doesn't matter logo on it. It's like, all right,
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
just
have
gonna
a
waste
problem.
more water flushing. I don't care.
I have no problem with that solution of saying like, well,
I don't
here's the the separate third option. I'm fine with that.
I think it's stupid that our culture has gotten to the point where we need that solution, but it is a solution that I don't have a problem with.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a fad, dude.
Well,
Stupid freaking fad.
I think that, and we talk about this a lot, I think there is a social contagion element to a lot of this. The numbers have increased way beyond the prevalency rates that they appeared to have been before. And I think we're going to look back at this time period as kind of similar to the way we looked at when we were giving people shock treatment and lobotomies pretty wholesalely and saying, okay, we did this way too much. However, there was a narrow sliver of people in which these procedures were, viable or not viable, should be
Advantageous.
given essentially, but we just overdid these procedures.
Right.
And I think it's going to be that with basically with transitioning.
We overprescribed.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of over prescription for this stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna have a generation of eunuchs.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
sadly.
happened before.
Sadly.
In ancient times, people used to castrate their sons so that they could go into politics.
Yeah, but that was for a very, I mean, it was awful, but it wasn't based off of, a faulty idea of like help necessarily, right?
I mean, it would suck if you
Why would
actually
you
didn't get into
castrate?
politics.
I guess that's true.
The
That's fair.
the thinking was, well, I guess in the king's court or whatever, they would only allow eunuchs because obviously they had harems of women and they wanted to make sure that there was no hanky panky going
Hanky-panky.
on. So
Mm.
yeah. Which, I mean, I read that in some history book or something. I was just mortified. I was like, oh, thanks. Jeez.
Like Varys, Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Yeah. Ferris. Game of Thrones. Exactly right. So is there anything else? Do you want to?
I mean, that's, I guess not on the trans issue, but
I mean, it's just there's no real good answer for it.
for what?
Well, I understand both sides because they obviously I think, dads are losing sleep because they don't want boys in the locker room with them flashing their lady dick around while their daughters are getting ready for the swim meet. Like, even there's a bunch of articles that came out about Leah Thomas where the girls who had to swim with her were complaining.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Look, we got a bunch of lady dick in the locker room,
And they get called transphobic and all this
right, and not only
crap
that,
to try to socially, hang them.
Leah's evidently flaunting it. Just look, it's my lady penis. Like, you just don't be embarrassed.
Largest clitoris.
Well, I think there's a better argument. I think there's a stronger argument for locker rooms than there are for bathrooms.
Of
'Cause generally,
course.
you're not flapping your lady dick around on a
But
bathroom.
the coach was just like, "Suck it up, ladies. We're winning.
Yeah.
Learn to love
Very
it."
pragmatic about the situation.
Right? Yeah. So I just, I mean,
and there's also a difference between a single toilet bathroom and a
Like
girl's bathroom, like at a
showers,
school with
yeah.
stalls and showers and all that kind of
Right,
stuff.
right.
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
the locker room thing is a lot more like because it'd be presumably be like way more expensive and like difficult to be like, oh, we're gonna build like a single use locker room
right.
shower situation. So
I have an idea. Go change in the bathroom.
I mean, I don't know. Like when I was in school, nobody used the showers. Like that was
There's not going to be 50 trans kids at the
they look
school.
gross,
You did
so-
go to PE, go change in the bathroom. Freaking
Right.
But
that's
somehow I have a feeling that the girls did probably use the showers. It was just the guys that weren't using the shower.
maybe those showers
Yeah.
look very suspect. So
I never showered at freaking school after PE.
did any girls here?
It's like,
Did they
oh, go
use the
hang out.
showers in high school? That seems. I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
not
don't know.
Porky's. It's not reality.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know. I feel like back in the day they did, but I don't know. Nowadays, it's just, I'm assuming not.
So are you still into crypto, Mike?
Yeah, of course.
Are you?
Buy the dip.
Mike made a bunch of money doing NFTs, I believe.
Mhm.
What can you tell us about that?
What do you want to know?
Just what was it? I mean, what's the experience like? Is it everyone I've talked to has
Oh,
said?
dude, there's so much more money in Web3 than there is in comics or anything else. So it's like I get paid. So that first year, I kind of jumped in and I got work with BitBoy Crypto, doing some NFT cards for him. and then they moved me on to doing an NFT, a 10,000 NFT collection of PV profile pictures, right?
Hmm.
So, and it was crazy because what they paid me for that, I was like, this is like the best month because it took me like 2 weeks to do it.
Hmm.
It was like, this is the best month pay I've ever had, right? And so I was like super stoked on it. But then they turn around, they sold them out, made freaking $3 million in 2 hours, and I was like, I want more money. So so I did my own collection, and that did very well. And it started a community because that's really what it is about when you're doing these collections, is you're building a community, and people come in and they have the NFT. They're part of the community. We're on the Discord. We've been hanging out for 2 years now, and like we talk about crypto and we develop other projects and all that kind of stuff. And since then, I started doing work for hire NFTs. And somehow in the NFT world, the fact that I'm a 30-year veteran from Marvel and DC is like I'm Brad Pitt or something. You know, they're like, so they all like want
Yeah,
me.
it's some sort of
And
authority.
so yeah, so I charge literally 5 times what I got for that first NFT collection.
Do you mind sharing what you got with it? I mean, you don't have to. I feel funny even asking, but you said they made like $3 million off it. So I know
Well, if
people
I tell
did.
you what I got for that, that means you know what I get now.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, well, you don't have to. I know
Yeah.
people, like Beeple is a digital artist, and
Yeah.
he's the one that sold, what was it, like $89 million?
69 million, I think.
Okay, 69 million. But he had sold that collection, I think, for $87,000 or something like that. So it was the same kind of situation where he had sold. I mean, $87,000 is nothing to like sneeze at
Balkan,
for,
yeah.
yeah. But yeah, and then they turned around and sold it for like 69 million. So
Oh, really? Is that how
yeah,
that? Oh man. Yeah, but
yeah.
he gets a royalty on that. So that's the cool thing about NFT art is like it's like, dude, if I sold a piece of art in 1990 for like 300 bucks and then now it's $70,000 on the market, I get nothing from it. But with NFTs, you can set your royalties. So I set my royalties for 10% for everything. So anytime any of my NFTs exchanges hands, I get 10% of the
But
sale.
does that happen though? Like people are talking about crypto winter and all this stuff. So
It's really slowed down. Yeah.
okay,
It does
that's
still happen occasionally, but it's really slowed down. And now it's like NFTs, nobody's just buying NFTs. Well, almost nobody's buying NFTs just for the profile picture.
mhm.
You have to attach some sort of a utility to the NFTs. So like
And as
this,
an artist, are people still hiring you to do that, to do these
yeah, I just
NFTs
got
that have a
another job.
utility?
I just got another job this week that should start, I think, in April. So, and like literally that
Hmm.
will take care of my bills for the year, right? Just that one job.
Okay,
I got 6 of these things last year.
right.
So it's like it's even in crypto winter, there's still people building NFT collections, but you have to build them with utility so that it's like owning the NFT grants you access or residual income or whatever it is from whatever the project is associated with. Right. I can't talk about the new one because I'm on an NDA, but
I,
like the other
I keep laughing, but I'm laughing at the chat. People are giving me a hard time now. They're saying that I'm trying to get in on the NFT game when I just like people were asking us about doing NFTs and stuff like that, and I kind of looked into it a bit, but I mean, I do kind of believe in the idea of NFTs. I'm not a believer in crypto, and I'm not really a believer in blockchain. But I do think there should be a way for artists to sell digital art because, like, I did the cover, which I spent a long time on doing the cover for the S-Class Supervillains Anonymous cover, which I just love that cover. But it's a digital piece of art. Like, it doesn't
Mhm.
exist beyond the real world. I'm sure you work in 100% digital, right?
I have for about the last 2 years, yeah.
Yeah, so there should be a way for artists to sell, digital
Digital art.
files that are
Yeah.
original files. I mean, this is the file. that I did
Yeah.
all the work in.
Well, here's the hard part. It's like you don't care about crypto, you don't care
Mhm.
about NFTs. And for me, I've been in crypto for 5 years, right?
Mhm.
Since June of 17 when Bitcoin was $3,000.
Yeah,
That's my entry,
it's
right?
very insular. You're going to say, look, they don't, you got to accept the church philosophy to get in on it.
Well, what I'm saying is that the Venn diagram of my fan base
Right.
and crypto fan base, it's the very little crossover. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
why I
That's
went to
interesting.
work. That's why I went to work for BitBoy, or I emailed him. I'm like, hey, I told him who I was and do you want to work together? And they jumped right on top of it. And because I knew they had an audience that was all about crypto. And so rather than me trying to force my audience over here into crypto,
Which is an impossible task.
which is an impossible
Yeah.
task, I went to where the crypto people were to try to make fans there.
Right.
So that's where the gravitas of being a Marvel DC artist
Well, I do remember
like
somebody saying a
pushes you.
prophet is never welcome in his own home. I can't remember who it was, but I do think that
I knew
does
that.
get the psychology right and kind of explains a little of what's going on here, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because yeah, you're just to us, you're just Mike from YouTube. To them, you're like, oh my god, this guy's a celebrity. I
yeah,
got to buy up his NFTs. So I
yeah.
people were talking, about how well you were doing on NFTs and stuff like that. So congratulations, obviously, as
Yeah,
one
thanks.
artist to another. If you can get a decent payday out of some gigs, then that's a good thing. I don't-
Yeah, well,
the
and it's not just I believe this in this. I think everyone's going to be using NFTs one way or the other. Here's the thing: most people don't understand what an NFT is. They think it's the picture,
Yeah,
right? It's not. It's non-fungible
it's
token.
it's bragging rights that you own the
It's
piece.
no, 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 no. It's the token that's on the
Hmm.
blockchain. It's the immutable record of that digital item, whatever that digital item is connected to. The NFT that itself I compare it to a blank piece of paper. You can literally write anything on it. I could write the deed to my house on an NFT, and whoever owns that NFT owns my house,
Yeah,
right?
that's
There's
a
NFT.
precarious situation to be
They're
in, but
doing ownership of like Andy Warhol's and other fine art stuff where they create the NFT, they fractionalize it. Now you don't have to spend $30 million on an Andy Warhol. You can spend $3,000 owning 1/10,000th of the Andy Warhol. And it's splitting up the ownership, fractionalizing the ownership of that thing. Like you could literally do that to anything. So it's you can make NFTs movie tickets, you can make them, freaking speeding tickets. I don't know, you can literally do anything because it's just a blank piece of paper.
yeah, I know a lot about blockchain and crypto and stuff like that. One of my learning endeavors over the last year has been economics. So I've been reading a lot on economics and whatnot, and so I know the pros and cons of crypto. I do. I know that you're like very sold on crypto, obviously, and if you've made a bunch of money doing crypto NFTs, I think it would probably be hard to change your mind on cryptocurrency. So
Well, it's all going that way, dude. All the tech companies are adopting blockchain one way or the other. So that you say you don't like blockchain, it's like that's the shock was in my face because even if crypto went away for some reason, dude, blockchain technology is
well,
it's
I
the
mean, I've
most.
heard a lot of developers talk about blockchain being the constraining factor on starting some of these businesses because it's so expensive by comparison to like a private ledger. The whole idea that the ledger has to be verified publicly through the work of other computers and stuff like that. Banking works on a private ledger that you have an institution that you trust to keep the ledger honest. That just is so much more efficient.
Oh, now you trust the Fed?
Well, no, I understand I understand the trust issue, but have heard a lot of like crypto bros talk about starting some business and saying that yeah, we could really save a lot of money if we didn't have to do the blockchain thing. And even this proof of stake thing is a way to get away from the blockchain thing, because you don't
Proof of
have
work,
to.
yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to have the proof of work if you have the proof of stake. And the whole idea is, somebody has skin in the game, which is the same exact thing as an institution. Like these big banks, they obviously have skin in the game
But it's
because
decentralized.
is
Or
it?
at least ideally it's decentralized.
I think there's a lot less
But proof of
decentralization
work
in
is
crypto.
decentralized.
But like I said, we're kind of talking
Yeah,
super
generally this is a
super.
topic that's really boring for people who
I
aren't
know.
into
Yeah,
crypto.
exactly. Sitch, did you take off? Any more politics? Maybe we can just is there anything you want to talk to us about, Mike?
No, this has been really fun though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, next time there's something to argue about. I mean, we do argue consistently on Twitter. I just don't know anything that's really going on now.
What'd you guys last argue about?
I mean, I think it was abortion.
That's always a fun issue.
Well, there's nothing there's no possible way to
There's
make
no movement
any.
on that one.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like, I mean, we could exchange the arguments that everybody has heard like a million times.
A million
before,
times, yeah.
which is not really
I'll just
fun.
give you my. This was before I was a Christian. My dad convinced me because I was pro-choice and I was talking to him about that, and he's like, you're pro-choice. He's like, why? And he just gave me a logical box I couldn't get out of. And he said, "Do you know when life begins?" And I said, "No." I mean, I could speculate. Everyone speculates. What's your delineation? What's your line? Whatever, it moves from one person to the other.
Well, can we just say personhood first? So
No.
we're talking about the same thing. When does personhood?
It doesn't
begin?
matter. It's regardless.
Well,
You know
then
when
we're having.
do
then
you
we're
know
having,
when personhood begins?
Well, I would say 12
See?
weeks just to
See,
be
you're speculating.
conservative.
You're speculating.
Well, no, I'm saying personhood. Look, when
Do
does
you
adult
know?
when
not
does
do-
adult when does
not-
adulthood
Hold on,
begin?
hold on. Not do you have a particular idea? Do you know for a fact when personhood begins?
Do you know for a fact when adulthood begins?
Wait, how are you defining personhood? That's really
Exactly.
another
That
question.
too. Do you know for a fact what personhood means?
We're defining personhood the same way that we're defining adult. We pick a date. We say
The same way you're
18th
defining-
birthday is we're going to define adult as someone who's over 18 years old. That's the
Okay,
way
what
we
if-
do it.
what if I
We're
wanna-
going to do the same thing
Hey,
with personhood.
look,
We're going
man,
to say
400
12
years
weeks.
ago,
This is when we
I mean,
define
Sitch is-
personhood as.
Jewish. Adulthood starts at 13.
Yeah, but we changed that. We, as a society, changed that.
It's
Wait.
changed.
What is okay? Hold on. Here's a question. Because saying when does life begin is very different than saying when does personhood begin. So that's what I'm asking. What do you mean by personhood? What does that mean?
I'm defining personhood the same way I'm defining adult.
What does that mean?
We define adult as 18 and older.
So you don't think you're a person until you're 18?
No, I don't think you're a person until you're 12 weeks.
But why? What is that? I don't understand.
Well, 12 weeks is usually when there's some sort of consciousness that.
Okay, but that's okay, but
How
that's
do
a
you
very
know?
different thing. Well, they can figure out when your brain.
Well, they
develops
estimate,
specifically.
like,
How do you know?
we pick
how do you know-
18.
Okay, like because you're a very materialist, but how would you know if your consciousness is literally in your brain?
Well, no, I think it's closer to 18 weeks, but I'm just erring on the side of conservation because, some people
Okay, and
obviously
I'm
will
erring-
mature
this is-
sooner. Some people will
You
mature
you
later.
just said the very words my dad said to me.
Mhm.
You err on the side of life. If you don't know for a fact when life or personhood or whatever you want to call it begins, you err on the side of life. To do any other is inhumane.
I disagree.
Yeah. I think there are plenty of situations where it's inhumane to not terminate the pregnancy.
Well, so I mean, I don't know, because the way I look at it is, to me, the question of when life begins is that's not the question. I think people kind of use it as shorthand to mean different things, because if someone is brain dead, they were born brain dead. I mean, even though their body is alive, I wouldn't really consider that alive in a way that that person is conferred rights or should be conferred rights or something to that idea. I mean, we don't grant rights to animals that are alive the same way that we grant humans. And to me, it's really a question of where does human consciousness begin? And if and you ask the question. So if say like they say the brain develops, specific regions that would enable, or what we believe would enable consciousness in a human, somewhere between the 12 to 16 week period. And
So
then you
what
ask,
if they discovered actually that consciousness doesn't begin until you're 2 years old?
well, that would seem to be impossible.
But just this is a thought exercise.
Well, I understand that, but that doesn't even make then I would question how are they defining consciousness. It would be different than how I'm
I would
defining
question how you're
consciousness.
defining consciousness.
Well, the ability to like sense the world and to even have, a sense of self and to exist, a perception
Yeah,
of existence.
I think it's impossible to say when a developing human being hits that point.
Well, I don't think it's possible to say that because there's, people that have brain damage to certain things, people that are born without specific parts of the brain. They say, oh, well, this person, doesn't have, these capabilities. The question that you asked earlier, which is, well, and this would be more of the sort of the, I guess not technically a theological question, but more of the question of like, do we know technically whether the brain creates consciousness or whether the brain allows consciousness to interact with the world
Right.
or interface with the world? And it's true, we don't know exactly the answer to that question, but I have to err on the side of, well, our best guess is it's the brain that consciousness resides in. So
And
that's
I
what
would
we're
err
going
on
to
the
use
side of
my
brain.
criteria.
See, I know we're getting into like but peculiars. It's like people saying, well, what about rape? What about incest? It's like, okay, great. What if we granted rape and incest? That's fine. How about now we err on the side of life for everything else?
No, I mean, I'm
You
fine
know,
with
it's
abortion up to 12 weeks. So for anyone.
all right. Well, and that's that. I'm just telling you, that's how, even as a young liberal agnostic, when my dad said that
Mhm.
to me, it just made I don't see any logical way out of it. It's like if there's a box in the street and it says kitten on it and there's a steamroller coming,
Yeah.
do you move the box?
If it's not going to, if I can move the box safely, sure.
But you don't know if there's a kitten
What
in
if
it.
it's a bunch of incest kittens in there,
Yeah, but what if
Sitch?
I have to risk, what if I do I have to
What if
risk my
there's a bunch of
life?
incestuous rape kittens?
Right. Well, the thing is that then for like, so if I'm just standing there and I'm like 2 feet away from a box that's labeled kittens,
You
and I
erred
see
on the
this
side of life.
traffic coming, it doesn't have to be, just say there's traffic coming down the road. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not like the effort to expel, to like pick up this box and look inside or to move it is so minor compared to like raising a child.
Okay, but you don't even have to raise the kitten. You can just give the kitten to an adoption agency.
It's like 9 months. It's like a big ass.
It's the
Mhm.
point. It's the point is you instinctively err on the side of life.
You do.
Even if it's not moving. If it just says kitten on it.
Okay, but so if you saw a box that said kittens and you saw a steamroller that's coming, and the steamroller is going to hit that box in 9 months, and you're going to have to spend the next 9 months, carrying a 40-pound weight on your stomach and doing all
Yeah,
sorts of
you
like,
have to
Okay, now we're
things
just
all
to
the
change
kittens.
your
we're
life
talking
just to
about
get to that
matters
box
of
of kittens. Are you going to do it?
Now we're just talking about discomfort and inconvenience versus
Well, yeah, I mean,
what is more important,
You got like
life
20
or
litter
inconvenience?
boxes.
no, but that's I understand that you're saying like the moral consideration for inconvenience is less than life, but that's the reality of the situation. Like if humans, could like if you could go into a room and they would teleport the baby out of you, I mean, maybe people would, have a completely different feeling about this.
Well, I mean,
Um,
that's why I have to approach this from a place of principle rather than specifics or the nitty gritties or the outliers and all that stuff. From a place of principle, always err on the side of life. That's just
That is
I
such
think
a.
it's instinctual if you're not polluting it with politics and
Well, no,
circumspect ideas and
but
whatnot.
the hypothetical I asked you, even though it's absurd, I mean, I think it's relevant. Of the, you see the box of kittens going to get run over 9 months in the future. I mean, are you going to go through all of that just to make, just to check the box that you don't know if what's inside of it?
Well, I mean, they'd be dead in 9 months if you didn't at least feed them.
Well, well, we don't know. This is a hypothetical. They're magic kittens that
Nine
have food inside
months
of them.
of cat food
Doesn't
is in
matter,
the box.
right?
And really, pregnancy is only difficult for about 3 months.
Well, they'll keep at first the weight is not very much, but as you get closer to the kitten box, the weight
The
becomes
kitten
more and
box gets
more.
heavier.
Didn't
Yeah.
we say this is just pointless?
No, we did, but it's still
No,
fun.
but
It's
it's a
still
good
fun to argue
exercise.
about.
Yeah.
So
I just feel like we could get you're not going to budge on if would 12 weeks be like an acceptable compromise? I feel like you can't really. I feel like the
No,
pro-life side cannot
if
really
you
do that.
don't
You're
look,
willing to
if
do
in
rape and
practice,
incest. Most people are like they give
I'm
on
not
rape and
willing.
incest.
I'm just saying if it's
you're willing to
if
rape
the
an
argument,
incest?
because I'm not a politician, but if there were in this political world where it's like we can
That was
save
poorly worded.
95% of the babies versus, you know,
I understand what you're saying.
right.
Right.
That's a practice. In fact, I'm very much I have kind of this weird, I'm very, very pro-life, but I don't believe making abortions illegal is going to end abortion, because in Brazil, abortion has been illegal forever, and they have more abortions than we do.
Right.
So it's like it's the cat's out of the bag. The only way to mitigate abortions truly, I mean, making it illegal will stop a percentage of the people, but to truly end abortion in any meaningful way, we have to educate our kids better about what they're doing, because when a girl goes in and thinks they're scraping a clump of cells out versus knowing that someone's going in there and ripping a little baby apart piece by piece and then sucking out its brain while it's screaming in terror silently, that's a huge difference, right? And that's information based. If she knew that's what she was doing to her kid, probably wouldn't go through with it.
Sure. I mean, if that's what's happening, sure.
That is what's happening.
No, but I mean, like, the screaming and silence,
Yeah,
depending on
that's
the,
okay.
the
There's
age of the baby or the
doctor,
fetus.
I think his name is Nathan something. Anyways, he was a founder of NARAL back when it was called the National, it doesn't matter. They changed it after abortion got legalized to National Association of, oh no, before it was National Association of Reform of Abortion Laws. Anyways, he was a founder of it. He'd aborted literally tens of thousands of babies. When the sonogram was invented, he had a bunch of abortion mills too. I can't remember, whatever you call them, Planned Parenthood type buildings. He had one of his people video record the abortion, right? And when he watched it, and he watched this little person screaming in terror and kicking at the freaking tools that were coming to rip him apart, he closed all of his clinics and he started fighting against abortion.
Mm-hmm.
This guy aborted 2 of his own grandkids. That's how pro-abortion he was. But when he saw that little person in there screaming to try to save their own life, that's what changed his mind.
I mean, I'm assuming they don't make sounds, right?
You can watch, look up silent scream.
Yeah, but did that happen at 12 weeks though? That's the thing.
No, it was probably 3 or 4 months. I don't know.
Yeah. 12 weeks. Look at that. It's like the baby in the cake. It's the little baby in the cake.
What do you mean?
You from New Orleans or something?
No, I looked up I've lived in New Orleans actually.
Yeah.
I'm looking up I looked up 12-week gestation and it's showing, I guess, approximate size. So those little babies they put in the cake? It's like a
New Orleans thing.
It's like a tiny little baby.
No, but they put babies in cake. I don't even know what you're talking about.
They put like a little plastic baby in a cake and they bake the cake, and if you get the piece that has the
it's
baby
for New
in it,
Year's,
it's
right?
like,
Isn't it for
that's
New
good
Year's?
luck.
That's
It's
so
like-
weird. Why? You're like chewing on a cake and all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's a baby in my mouth.
It's New Orleans, man.
It's for New Year's, isn't it? Isn't it, Adam?
It's New Orleans. It's all just crazy shit.
Yeah, but it's not like they don't have them like all the time. They only have them like once a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's a New Year's cake. You're supposed to, it's like the New Year's baby or something.
I think I might be uncomfortable at 12 weeks now that I've seen this.
Oh no, information.
Everybody has so there's all these people. If you go to Google and just type 12 weeks pregnant, there's all these pictures of women posting the Polaroids of their little baby. But obviously they don't show as pregnant or anything like that. It's like Look, it's like it's like the size
It's
of
like
your
this big.
pink. Yeah, it's the size of your pinky finger. But it's, I mean, I don't know that you can call it the clump of cells if it's like a little tiny walnut down there.
No, but you just said it's okay to kill it.
Look at this. Look at this emotional pressure here.
I know. So I don't know
You're
the
Winding
bravely
us
killing.
back a little bit.
I don't know
See,
the
that's exactly like, Adam. What you just went through is exactly what I'm talking about.
Look,
The only
I
way
said
we
this.
change this is by giving the information that you just realized to those young women who are going.
Look. I am the eternal optimist. Literally said on the Sunday show, I'm like, well, you know, if they banned all abortion, I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. Like, I mean, there was plenty of times when people didn't even have access to abortions. Well, I mean, what's going on Game of Thrones? They keep bringing out that potion. It's like they have
Yeah.
Plan B on Game of Thrones.
Oh no, there's abortive drinks
Drink
and
this
teas and
and
stuff.
you'll be fine.
That's not fantasy. That's real.
Okay. So maybe abortion has been around for like a lot longer.
You know what's crazy? There was this Pompeii book I saw at Barnes and Noble one time, and I'm flipping. It was all the artifacts and stuff they found in Pompeii.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, they literally had, like, they called them medical tools. But I was looking, and I was like, there's only one thing those medical tools could be used for, because one was like a cervix stretcher, and the other was a long spoon, a long handle.
They were abortion.
Yeah,
I'm sure they've been doing that for a long time. So I don't know the facts of this because I'm just reading random articles. So some medical people have complained about the film you're talking about, saying that they would speed up the movements of the baby or the fetus to make it appear like it's thrashing in reaction to the tools as opposed to just moving naturally.
okay, that's coping, dude. This dude was a founder of NARAL.
Yeah, but wait a minute.
The founder.
Wait.
He's the reason abortions are legal in America.
Wait. That's, people can change their opinions. Okay, that's not the question. The question is, if we look at our medical science and there's a determination that fetuses at 12 weeks old literally cannot even feel or perceive pain, then you'd have to find something counter to that. And if it's a video that's been sped up to make a baby like look as appear as if it's thrashing about when it's just moving around naturally,
news.
That would not confirm that belief.
So you think he just he woke up one day and he's like, oh, you know what? I should shut down all my.
I don't know. I don't know. Why
Sorry, honey, for killing your babies, my grandchildren. I'm gonna be pro-life now.
I don't know why he made the decision he made, but
well, it's his own personal testimony. That's sure. Why. That's what did it. It was the invention of the sonogram.
This says 12 weeks. It's the size of a plum or 3 grapes.
Well, that's another thing that they're complaining about. They're saying that in the film it's only 2 inches long, but they kind of make it look like it's the size of like a full-blown fetus.
So they zoom in.
Yeah.
That's coping, dude.
How dare they?
Well, it depends whether it can feel pain or not is relevant to the conversation. Now, to me, it's not as relevant as the consciousness angle, but I understand for most people they wouldn't be able to put that aside.
No, I'm just saying there nobody on the planet who was more pro-choice than the dude that killed tens of thousands of babies and made abortion illegal in this country. Fought for it for decades until it was legal.
And he had to see the ultrasound, and he was like, no. What did he think was going on in there?
Probably thought like Adam did 10 minutes ago.
Look at his face.
He's like, damn it.
What did you think 10 minutes ago, Adam?
10 minutes ago was a clump of cells.
I still have a difficult time.
No, 2 inches is a small clump of cells.
Right? Well, you're a clump of cells, Sitch.
That's true.
But he's conscious, and he's a smart and a good friend. So
I have personality. The fetus doesn't have much personality.
I'm not.
I know plenty of people that have no personality.
Well, listen, maybe they should be important.
That is a good. Maybe that is not really important.
Get rid of all the NPCs, okay?
I mean, I guess I am open to changing my mind on the topic, to be honest with you. So, Sitch seems less so,
Well, I'm open to changing my mind on it, but it's still my criteria is still the same. It's on the basis of consciousness, not pain.
Yeah. And also, I mean, you got to weigh. This is why I think it should be up to the particular person, because the person has the information about their situation that's most relevant. And I believe in individual rights. So
Well, I mean, like that's what I was saying
up to a
before.
certain
I
extent,
think the
obviously.
only this I think if you need a license to drive a car, you should have, go through a couple hours of informing yourself of what you're actually doing before you go kill your own child.
Look, I would like, if someone is in a situation where they, have been raped, or it's a incest, which I guess is also rape. Like,
Not always. Have you seen Jerry Springer?
yeah, okay. So your brother,
Depends on the ages.
your brother's knocked you up. You realize this was a terrible decision, and you need to get. Like, I would like the abortion to take place as soon as possible. I don't want them to be like, it's not you got to wait to 12 weeks to do it. I mean, do it ASAP, but at the same time, sooner or later we have to have some kind of cutoff where you realize personhood begins, and this is a human being now. Then you have to consider it to be a human being, and that's that.
Well, okay. Here's the hypothetical question. So if someone was pregnant and they able to do an ultrasound or something with the baby, and they say, okay, this baby is brain dead. They know it for a fact that this baby is brain dead, but it still is gonna have reactive stimuli to, things. It's still gonna move around. Is that acceptable to abort that fetus, or does it have to be still birthed?
Yeah, that's heartbreaking because that actually has happened.
Yeah,
It
no,
happens
I'm
a lot.
thankful that we can
Right.
abort the children in that
It's
situation.
it's it's the weirdest thing. I saw the case of a kid who was born like literally without a brain
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Bizarre.
surviving and alive. And it's like, I thought the brain was what made the heart pump and did all this other stuff, but it's like this kid has no freaking brain
I think if
and he's
he probably had
alive.
like a brain. He probably had like a brain stem, which I think controls a lot of the
Probably.
those sorts of
It's just
functions. But
crazy.
well,
Uh,
but here's the thing: like, is
I
there
don't know.
any
Beyond
point in
above my
keeping
pay
that
grade,
like
dude.
child alive? That's just
Above my
like
pay grade.
this. Yeah.
Look at this.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I'm just going by basic principles. That's
Right.
and like I said, I think education is a better option than even making it all illegal. Although I'd be fine if it all was made illegal. I think still education is the better option.
Well,
Right.
if you're, and this is my inclination as well, if you're willing to admit, this is not a decision that I feel qualified to make, isn't that really the person that should make that decision is the one that has to make it by necessity, which is like the woman and her family? Like, if you're not qualified to make that decision, why is government qualified to make that decision?
No, it's a fair question. I mean, I'm not making laws.
Right, but the law could be made so it's like the person closest to the situation with the most information can make the decision. But the thing that people don't like about that is, they're going to make a decision that I don't approve of.
It's
So
true, but
therefore,
bro, way more than 90% of the abortions that are out there are just matters of convenience. Somebody didn't want to wear rubber. Somebody didn't have their birth control. Somebody, just got too drunk one night and then they kill the baby because it's inconvenient.
well, I just, how much,
I mean, again, principles versus specifics. Yeah, well, there's heartbreaking specific things, but that's not the majority of what's happening.
well, I don't know the specifics on that. Obviously, I don't approve of that. People using uh, abortion as birth control is disgusting, repulsive, and shouldn't happen, obviously. So,
Yeah,
the
maybe you know what? Maybe I don't know. Just thinking out. There's some sort of a tribunal, whatever. If if it ever came to the place, no, let's
No.
oh, just follow. If it ever came to the place where abortion was actually made illegal in America, if there was some sort of way you could go before a judge or a panel or something and plead a case for extenuating circumstances, then
See,
you know,
the thing that bothers me here is, okay, now we're doing abortions at like, 6 months because you got to go to court and deal with, like, pretty soon it's like, oh my God, it's worse.
well, I don't
This
know.
is something that needs to
I just
take place
farted
like
that out of my
quickly.
head, dude. I wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah, I
long term.
know. This is just something that a decision needs to be made, and there needs to be like a cutoff. You have to this point to make the decision. Yeah, that's even. This is why I would like to err on the side of like 12
Like,
weeks, because then you're telling people, you've got a ticking time bomb here. You need to make this decision, or carry the baby to term. So, anyway, do
If
we
there
have-
was a magic machine
Mhm.
that could determine when the soul is placed in the body, and it said 12 weeks, would it be okay to abort the fetus before then?
If you knew for an absolute
Yes.
fact somehow,
God says, "Here's the soul finder machine."
yeah, I mean, if it is literally nothing but a clump of cells,
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out like where the principle, like what is the underlying principle?
The
of
principle is
matter?
we don't know, and so err
Right,
on
I
the side of
understand.
life.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, the principle. Yeah, the principle is that we don't know when consciousness/soul
Or any-
exists in
yeah.
a human, and so
Right.
that's the cutoff point. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard from Jews that they believe that it's the ha, right? The breath that imbues the soul, which that means you can kill them before they take their first breath. I'm not saying you, but I've heard that from
I don't know. I mean,
Judaic
I'm not
perspective.
like a practicing Jew or anything, but I thought I'm not sure. I thought a lot like conservative Jews like Ben Shapiro. I think they're pretty anti-abortion. So I don't know
Yeah.
what I don't know where their stance comes from specifically. But
Shad is in the chat. Shadiversity.
hey, Shad.
Shad, what's up, bro?
So yeah, what's up? We're gonna have Shad on sooner or later. I think we're wrapping up at the moment. We have a few more super chats to read, but what's up, man? Glad to see you in the chat.
The JP Mexican for 5 months. Thanks so much. Says, Adam, how do you feel about MPreg abortions? Yay or nay?
What's that?
Male pregnancy.
Male
abortion.
pregnancies. I feel like impreg abortion should be mandatory. I feel like
Oh, mandatory.
Yeah. any male pregnancy should be terminated immediately.
Mm.
Yeah,
You're not a fan of the Arnold Schwarzenegger film Junior.
and the person should be referred for scientific study.
Interesting.
Send him to Area 51.
Yes.
Gene the Angry Penguin, thanks so much for being a free here for 3 months, says Adam is a person until he pulls out the harmonica. Then
know.
he's just a clump of cells.
I feel so bad because I'm realizing now. Oh, it appears that I'm like laughing at the guest because you guys are making me laugh so much in the chat. Like,
Right.
my
We're
harmonica
talking about
playing
something.
is
We're talking
that.
about like abortion and babies dying and
Right.
Adam's just laughing.
I know it's terrible. The
Yeah.
optics of it are totally terrible. But I mean, you're making fun of my harmonica playing. What am I supposed to do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's funny.
So far on the poll, I asked, did you use the middle or high school showers? Only 16% said yes. 68% said no.
68, bro.
68% said no. And 16% said that they didn't have showers in their school. So
Wow, they didn't even have the opportunity.
no. Gene the Angry. Oh, yeah, the one. The Waifu Defiler. Wow. For $5 says, Mike, do you know Tom Brevoort? He's my
Brevoort.
dad. Brevoort.
I
my
worked for
dad.
Tom one time on an issue of Hulk. I got to draw a John Byrne story. And John Byrne hated me because I used to argue with him on his message board on AOL.
Oh my
and
God. About what?
And so when Tom Brevoort came to me and offered me this gig, I was like, does John know I'm going to draw it? And he's like, no. I'm like, I'll take it.
Nice, nice. Well, cool. That's apparently the waifu defiler's father.
Yeah, that was like 1999, I think.
Hmm. Uh, who wins in a fight between Goku and Superman?
Is that the new question or is that a super chat?
Well, I'm thinking like when I was a young lad on AOL message boards, that's what the kind of stuff we would argue about.
Right. Did you ever go on Burns message board on AOL?
No, no.
No. So back then, I used to argue with Robert Kirkman, and that's where I met Kevin Grievous.
Hmm.
Kevin Grievous, the creator of Underworld, and I would argue with Kirkman back when he was doing Battle Pope before he did any of the other stuff. So Kirkman still hates me. That's when I was at a con one time, and I've been friends with Ryan Otley for decades, and we were sitting there talking and stuff, and I go like, hey man, if you ever want me to do an alt cover for Invincible or anything, and his eyes just kind of bugged out, and I go, Kirkman still hates me, huh? He goes, Kirkman still hates you.
Oh, no. Oh no.
Some people just can't get over it being,
Hmm.
Some people are eternal grudgers. So
yeah.
I would argue you're one of those people, Mike, to be honest with you.
No, I forgive easily.
Okay.
If I'm asked, if someone repents, I forgive.
Okay.
I sent you a DM, Adam.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Okay.
Andrew Clark for $5 says, Adam, contact Mahler to set a Sunday for the Fight Club stream and suggest that the Saturday before is a pre-recorded EFAB, please. I don't think we're going to suggest that, Andrew, but I don't know. I'll be honest, they don't seem particularly interested. Maybe we'll just do the Fight Club stream ourselves. I don't know. So, don't seem particularly interested in doing it. Mr. Scratch for 2 months says, since you guys were talking about sheath underwear a few months ago, I bought a pair and can confirm they're extremely comfortable.
What?
A-team forever. So there you go. Have you tried sheath underwear, Mike?
No, I've never even heard of it.
It's like it's like an underwear that has a little pouch that you can like separate your dick and balls from each other.
Mm-hmm. Does it make ball cleavage? Because I mean that would go
think so.
That would go a long way towards the lady dick.
There you go. There you go.
I mean, you could say, "Look, I really do have a lady dick. Here's the cleavage."
I mean, listen, I'm curious to try it. But Shad says, check your DMs, Adam, in chat.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I thought that's what you were doing.
Well, you're checking my DMs. But...
Yeah, that's a cool shirt. What is that, Adam?
I got it on Threadless. I'm not exactly sure if it's... Threadless is usually just a bunch of artists that do T-shirts, like independent artists. So I like to get their stuff.
It's like Japanese Ursula.
That's a good description, yeah. Solos for $2 says, ask Mike about AI art and Chat GPT.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with AI art.
Well, there you go. What is Chat GPT?
Chat GPT?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I was just messing with that before I got on with you guys.
What is it?
Like for the first time ever. It's a AI chat bot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the last question I asked was, assuming that God is a fact, not an opinion, what theory holds better to logic, intelligent design or the theory of evolution? And the chatbot says, the theory of evolution and the theory of intelligent design are two different ways of explaining the natural world. The theory of evolution is a scientific theory that is supported by a vast amount of empirical evidence and is widely accepted by the scientific community. It explains the diversity of life on Earth and the relationships between different species and blah, blah, blah. If one assumes that God is a fact and not an opinion, it is possible to argue that the theory of intelligent designs holds better to logic because it posits the existence of a designer as an explanation for certain features of the natural world. However, it is important to note that the existence of God is a matter of personal belief and is not a scientific concept that can be tested or proven through empirical means. As such, the question of which theory holds better to logic is ultimately a matter of personal belief and interpretation.
The AI
It's great.
is
You
going to
can
be
ask this
very
thing anything.
sensitive.
I
Yeah.
literally just started using it like 10 minutes before you guys
Cool.
before we started.
Is that what is the point of it? Just to like ask it questions, or is it like do something?
I mean, you can do all kinds of stuff. Like I could say like write me a song in the style of the Beatles about
okay, yeah, I saw people posting that. I
Ursula.
know.
Yeah, and
Right.
it'll do crazy stuff. Somebody just sent me a story. They asked for the parameters and that kicked out a story idea. That's like, that might be a fun way to like kick off story ideas. I wouldn't
Right,
use it,
right.
but
Sure,
yeah,
sure.
I always like a seed to like start writing. So
I sent Shad a link to jump in. I don't think we're going to go much longer, but yeah, if
jump
Shad
in,
wants to jump in.
Shad. You could regale us with your AI argument. Shad is going hog wild arguing with people about AI on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. I think my position is, it's kind of building off of yesterday. I think my position is people are like afraid, and I think it's justifiable fear. Like, oh, someone's just gonna like steal like the entire art style of another artist and basically use it. When I think like by looking into it a little bit more, it's more like, oh, like that's taking all these different pictures and sort of just using this to like figure out how to construct a human form, kind of. And it's like not exactly like, it's not like you're just taking one person's style and just stealing it. It's like it's just using this massive amalgamation of like, thousands and thousands and thousands of things.
Yeah, it's not stealing. It is stylistic interpolation. So
Right. So I think that's okay. I think as long as you're not just like saying like, oh, I'm gonna like copy one specific person's style. I think that's.
I mean, dude,
think
artists
that's
have
okay.
done that forever. I used to ink Vic Bridges on Freak Force, and all he did was copy John Byrne's style exactly.
I
Well,
guess that's
they're
true.
always catching people doing traces of literally other people's work.
Yeah, but isn't that taboo to do that?
It is.
It is
It's
taboo.
totally.
Right.
It's totally taboo. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's to be avoided. What's
Hey,
up, Shad?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
buddy.
we can.
It might be an echo. I might just need to resend the.
Hey, I really
Send-
liked your coverage on House of the Dragon. We
thanks, man.
we were covering House of the Dragon too, but Sitch and I mean, we were kind of. It's really weird. Like we kind of went back and forth. Sitch really liked some episodes that I was like ho hum on, and then other episodes that he was like really into, or I was really
Vice
into.
versa.
He was like, yeah.
I like the talky episodes. Adam likes the actiony episodes.
Yeah.
I like them both.
So,
But
Hey, Shad, are we doing all stream this week?
Maybe. I'm starting to recover a bit. The break has been a bit hectic for me, so
Yeah, we should get these guys on.
Yeah,
Maybe not this week. If not this week, some other time.
sure.
Oh,
your book has done really good. We just discovered that you were like over 600K, that's awesome, man. Congratulations.
oh, thanks, man. Yeah, it's done crazy good, really exciting, and just reinvesting. Well, first of all, of course, handling fulfillment and whatever is left over, and after everyone's paid, reinvesting every single thing into making more. So
That's
Right.
awesome. Yeah. 6,000 books. That's quite, I mean, we have to deliver 1,000 books. So 6,000 is, but people say
We've got a
1,000
fulfillment
is,
company.
people say 1,000 is like, I mean, it's a little painful, but doable, but 6,000 is like a torture basically. So, so you're going to use a fulfillment company. You said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Shad's in Australia, and I'm not fulfilling 6,000.
Yeah. So, because Mike has actually done fulfillment on some books. So he
6,000
knows.
books would on my own would like it probably take 2 months to fulfill. It's a daunting task.
yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Should we do 1,000? Do you think?
What do you mean?
Without a company? I'm asking. Based on Mike's.
I plan on doing fulfillment for 1,000 books. I mean,
Yeah,
I had
1,000's not bad.
Okay.
I had the idea that I was going to try to rook you into doing fulfillment, but I kind of feel like, well, I want to. My whole idea of doing this is I want to understand the process like all the way through. This is the first time I've ever done a comic book, so I mean, I'm basically teaching myself from scratch, which is, that's why it's taking so long. Mike here has 30 years experience.
Yeah, you could have reached out, asked me.
So he's already gone through, all of the
Trials and tribulations.
yeah, exactly. The thinking about, well, how am I really going to do this? Yeah. But I mean, you learn in leaps and bounds when you jump in with both feet. And I am definitely one of those types of people I believe in learning on your feet. So yeah, it's been a great experience.
Yeah. Failure is a great teacher.
You've done a bunch of novels too, as well, Shad, right?
Well, I published one. I've written like a whole heap of other ones that will never see the light of day.
Why? Now, why is that?
Because they're crap. What are you talking about? You don't want to publish your first friggin' books, man. I went back to read one of my first, attempts. Oh, wow. it's a special thing.
That's funny because Sitch has a novel that I keep trying to get him to
An unpublished. I feel exactly the way Shad does. I'm like, I go back, I'm like, this novel sucks.
Yeah, dude. You don't want to. I mean, that's part of the growing process. You should be writing a bunch of stuff that never sees the light of day, and then have something good to present yourself with first.
Keep going. Eat your ash.
Of course, if they're good ideas, you can always go back.
Yeah, you recycle the good ideas, obviously.
Yeah, recycle.
Right.
Yes.
Cannibalize the good ideas.
I mean, I'm working on a book which I've basically stalled a lot because I've just been so busy. I'm halfway through it, but it's actually the ultimate kind of concept and evolution from that initial first one, and it's got elements and characters and stuff that are still present in it. Very different because it's gone through lots of evolutions. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you've got good ideas, you usually keep them and you work with them.
Yeah, I think we first met on EFAP and we were talking about story and stuff. And it was it was kind of a contentious time because Sitch and I had just discovered that the EFAP crew has a really different kind of, like, in a Jordan Petersonian way, a hierarchy of values for storytelling that is like very different from the traditional hierarchy of values in storytelling. I would say, like, obviously conflict, character, transformation, like some of these terms I think would be closer to yours and my hierarchy and like the traditional storytelling hierarchy. But they're like, no, consistency is number one.
So I don't necessarily put things on a hierarchy, though I might eat my words later, but if we ever nut it down and figure out, because I do think consistency is really, really important.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love their approach and stuff. But I am of the side that there are times as a writer where if you can analyze the situation and what you're writing from a perspective of, I guess what I'm trying to say is, you need to understand what you're trying to achieve with the work. And that should be the primary standard in which you judge every action or decision that you put into the story. And the primary goal for me would be writing a really entertaining, great story. You want people to enjoy it. And consistency is oftentimes a really important thing to make it enjoyable, because that makes the payoffs feel real and valid and justified. It also makes all the events happen feel, because you want the story to feel real. And so consistency is one of the primary things. And consistency also seems to be one of the primary things that is being left by the wayside in modern media writing, in like Hollywood and stuff, where they just lose the plot.
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, they'll sacrifice, like they want some scene or some emotion too badly.
Adam, are you doing that, or is Sitch
doing what?
What?
Putting Shad up on the screen.
Oh, that's Adam. I don't have. Adam has all the visual powers.
I was just surprised you could follow along to what Shad's saying and do that at the same time. I was like,
well, also, what you're seeing on the screen is like, what you're seeing on the screen is like 30 seconds in the past too. So.
Not only that, look, you're an artist. When you draw all day, don't you like listen to, like, I can use my listening and thinking about words and narrative and stuff like that, and do my spatial work at the same time. Like they're just like two separate parts of my brain.
I can't do that.
Oh, really?
No. Yeah, like when I'm talking, I get so focused on the subject that I'm talking about that it just hijacks all my focus.
Oh, okay.
Is that true?
Okay.
Is that true of listening too, though?
No, when I can listen to heaps of stuff, you guys, podcasts and everything, and usually do something, work on SketchUp, play a video game, or any number of.
Do you see?
visual
That's the
things.
secret right
Yeah.
there. I was just listening to what you were saying. I wasn't.
You're
Yeah.
just already gauging.
Yeah, no, I
Yes.
mean, well, I agree. Like, if you're usually talking, you're going to be a little bit more active. It'd be hard to like draw like a painting while you're
And
talking to
talk.
someone about something completely different.
But your wife will inevitably want you to do this. It comes up like every day.
Of course.
Talk to me
For,
while
for
you're
me,
listening.
it's like it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm laying out a page and I'm going from the word to the action,
Yes,
I
totally.
essentially need silence.
Yeah.
Or like Mozart or something that has no words in it because I'm like thinking and processing like how it is going to be visually. Once I'm done with that stage,
Mhm.
it's all doodling. I mean,
Yes,
just
totally.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hey,
I can
before
look at-
I kind of came on, Sitch, you were starting to talk a little bit about AI. AI.
Yeah,
I
well,
thought you came on to talk about the abortion.
we talked about that. No, so yesterday we were kind of talking about like AI art, and I know you made your video on it, and whether it's people should be compensated, whether they shouldn't be compensated, and everyone's kind of arguing back and forth about this AI art stuff.
It's
Yeah, man. It's a battlefield.
Yeah.
I heard that you're like going back and forth with people on Twitter. It's pretty brutal.
Shad,
it's fun.
well, you're kind of in the midst of it right now. Shad, tell me where do you think we'll be like a month from now, 2 months from now? Do you think this is? I feel like right now passions are running super high, but I feel like I've been reading and looking at AI art and stuff for like months now. I think 5 or 6 months people have really got on the AI train, but just in the last couple of weeks, there's been like a backlash. But I don't know how sustainable the backlash really is.
Well, it's founded on misinformation, and the way that it's going to people's minds are changed is that the correct information needs to be shared. That's why I made my video. I was getting really annoyed with the falsehoods that were being spread around. And the pushback against it is insane, where people are convinced. They are absolutely convinced they know the truth of the matter, and they wouldn't even watch the video at all and just dogpile it savagely and then just assume why I'm wrong and say things that are literally addressed in the video and debunked.
Yeah.
And they're saying, you're wrong because of this, and this. And I like literally like talk about it in depth in the video. And so I'm not sure I can win people like that over who are just absolutely, it's an emotional argument to them. They're just almost kind of possessed in this mindset. AI art is evil, and anyone who supports it is a bad person. How dare you? I thought better of you. I'm really disappointed in you. I've been getting so many comments like that, right? But the people who kind of see those interactions and they're wondering what the controversy is around, those are the people I'm hoping to catch. And that's why I've been going back and forth on Twitter, not because I think I'm actually going to win, convince anyone otherwise,
Right.
but it's boosting the original tweet where I share the video to be the biggest tweet I've ever had on Twitter. And getting a lot of people who are not so, convinced, right, to give it a watch and those that watch it with an open mind. Well, I get to share some correct information about it, and so I'll just keep going. Like I'm prepping for another video addressing comments, the backlash. There's already people reaching out to me in DMs. They want to talk about it. From their perspective. And so I'm going to try and chat with some of these people tonight, record that, and make another video on it, and just to hopefully continually share the correct information about so many things that ethics can be. It's funny when people talk about ethics that are subjective. I just always appeal to precedents, that what people are already doing, and there are so many equivalences in what people do in art and with technological progression and automation and all that stuff, that I think people's ethic. If you're consistent with your ethics, you're not going to see too much issues with the ethics of AI. Legally, it's pretty darn clear, and And there's so many interesting perspectives and counter arguments just on the legality of it. And if you and just raising some parallels really pulls people up. And
it's an emotional argument.
Yeah.
Are you debating like pro people or con people? You said you were having a discussion.
Yeah.
Tonight.
So 3 people have reached. Three people seemed good faith enough for me to say, all right, I'm happy to have a chat with you.
Mm-hmm.
Other people have reached out. One guy was like, he was trash talking all that stuff and is like, why don't you want to talk? I was like, I do want to talk. It'll be recorded. And then it's like, oh no, I don't want to be recorded. It's like, all right.
When you say like people are getting it wrong, do you mean they're getting like how the technology works wrong? Is that the misconception?
Massively. They get the technology wrong. They also are being inconsistent with ethical standards in parallels about similar things that you can do in Photoshop. One interesting one is they are constantly appealing to copyright law as this is in breach of copyright law, and it's actually not right. When you really break down, but it's funny. It's like, all right, if it's not legally, like black and white, it's not legally wrong. It's still ethically wrong. And it's like, well, hang on. You guys have been appealing to copyright law for a long time. I in counter to this. So now that suddenly copyright isn't your defense, you're just abandoning it. It's not about copyright suddenly. And also, I find it interesting when there's a lot of artists that suddenly copyright's really important. When does copyright really? I wonder how important copyright art is to a lot of artists who say draw fan art, because to my understanding, fan art is in breach of someone's copyright technically.
Oh yeah, I made so much money off of fan art.
Yeah, and there are so many of these artists that are like, copyright should be respected, and then they're going around playing fast and loose with copyright in so many other instances, like doing fan art and all this stuff. And I'm like, do you guys really care about copyright? This is just one interesting thing, and I
didn't know fan art was a copyright violation.
Well, you're not allowed to sell it unless
it's
you have
fan art of like Marvel and DC. They're talking about like Spider-Man and stuff like that.
Yeah, I understand. Like, you're not supposed to sell.
You can draw
Spider-Man.
You're not supposed to sell it.
But
right. Okay. That makes
artists do go like who work on the Spider-Man book and they draw Spider-Man and sell the art. And
it's an industry. It's like at Marvel, you're supposed to have if you're going to do fan art prints, you're supposed to have them officially printed through Marvel for cons and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
DC gives you 25 prints per year cumulative that you can do basically fan art and sell them as prints, and it's cumulative. So you can, if I did 25 this year, then the next year, and this is a standard contract for people. So I could have like over the years hundreds of different DC prints. And they all fall under that thing, but I think Marvel's a little more prickly about it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time though, Marvel came up because like me and a bunch of my friends were making killings at these cons doing fan art stuff, right? Because that's what the fans were there for. Is like they want to come and buy the new Iron Man and the new whatever. Marvel came to New York Comic Con, the Artist Alley director there, Mike. And actually, I don't know if it was Mike that responded to him, but they tried to give him an ultimatum. They're like, you need to have tell all of your artists that they're not allowed to sell Marvel prints here. And New York Comic Con is just like, piss off.
That's kind of the whole reason to be there, right?
Sure. Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, you want to get rid of our entire market? That's no.
So okay, that's interesting. Well, I know you made like an hour long or hour and a half long video, but do you have like what's your like summary argument, Shad, for the AI art? Sure.
Gosh, to just summarize it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's actually I'm trying to, because there's a lot of elements to it.
I know. Take your giant video and make it like 10 seconds.
Yeah, right. instead of being out, because I can't really summarize, there's too many things, but I could share one of the more important perspectives I think people
okay.
have about AI art. And it's what an incredible opportunity and benefit it's going to be for so many people, especially indie creators and stuff. There are countless, thousands, millions of people who have creative ideas in their mind and lack the means to be able to express those things to the highest quality possible. And the process of civilization in terms of automating things to make things more accessible and more affordable to people has always been a massive benefit for so many people. Okay. If you go back in the day, there are so many things that were restricted to people because it was too expensive or they didn't have the means to do it. Even like from commodities to services, so many things, right? Like things that are pittance in terms of how much we can pay for them now would be like years' wages back in the day and be really valuable and stuff. And everything from the linen in people's homes to the way that they kept their homes warm to everything like that. You can go down to your local Walmart or Kmart or wherever and buy for a couple of dollars. And that is incredible. It has raised the standard of living for thousands of people, millions, not thousands, millions of people across the world. There's always been a really massive net benefit. And there has been a type of you could kind of call it gatekeeping or like a restriction in creative expression, because it has been very hard for people to see their artistic ideas, their creative ideas depicted to the highest quality possible. There's not going to be that barrier anymore. And anyone in the world is capable of now have the means to be able to see their ideas depicted in the greatest way possible, but also pursue those ideas and try and build something out of them, which is, I think, phenomenal. And at the same time, this is such a massive opportunity to artists as well. They don't need to fear this. There are so many ways. It's not they think it's a replacement. No, not at all. It can help your artistic process, and make things on so many levels so much easier and so much cheaper and so much faster that your artistic output can just double, triple. Like it's an incredible opportunity. Like Mike and I have been talking about this and things that we are to help. Like, Mike, you've had heaps of trouble and bottlenecks finding the right colorist to be able to get your work done and stuff. And that AI art is an opportunity to color your hand-drawn stuff to some of the highest quality possible, because it's really hard to find an available colorist, and it's really hard to get their work in on time, and it's also really, really hard to find a good colorist.
If that could be figured out, dude, the stuff that AI squirts out is better than like 95% of the colorists.
They're going to have a colorist. Like, they're going to have a colorist program in like a year. Like, you're going to be able to put in black and white inks and just, it's going to color it. Like, that's going to be a thing.
I would love it.
That's gonna I've
been using AI as backgrounds on my NFT collections for like 2 years too.
Right.
Yeah. Because it's like I could paint all that, but dude, it would take an extra month just to do the backgrounds, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if I do AI, I can do like all of them in a day.
Yeah.
And the people who will be able to get the best results out of AI is actual artists who understand composition, lighting, what's more dynamic pose, perspective. Exactly. Like, actual artists will be able to make such higher quality AI art that the average normie that's just going there and taking like a stock prompt and ticking generate, they will kick the crap out of anyone doing that because of their artistic ability. The AI art I've been able to make, because I know how to work in Photoshop and I know those perspectives and everything, is so much higher quality than the average Joe, right? It's an incredible tool, incredible opportunity, and it's going to make things so much more accessible. It already is, right? That I feel the fear-mongering is really misplaced. In fact, the fear-mongering is going to convince so many people to get the worst possible outcomes of this technology, because it's here to stay. And so if you tell people it's bad, you're bad for using it, they're never going to use it, which means they're going to be outcompeted by people who are, and that's almost going to ensure them, if they want to survive in the new environment, work using their art to make a living, right? Unless they are the top of the top, the cream of the crop, where they're like Their work is so good that they will be able to legitimately compete with in terms of the best quality, right? They will be outcompeted and receive the worst possible outcomes, and it's doing them a massive disservice, a huge disservice by the fear mongering and saying it's horrible and people that use it are bad and you're bad if you use it and all that stuff. And they're saying they're on the side of artists, yet they are encouraging them to get the worst possible outcomes because AI art is here and it's not going away.
Shad, we talk a lot on the show about psychology and moral psychology specifically. Are you familiar with like the term moral psychology or any of that?
I have like a hobby interest in psychology, but not like on an academic level. I won't be able to say this type of philosophy is this name and stuff like that. But I do enjoy engaging in the concepts very actively.
Do you know like the thinking fast and slow concept, the Daniel Kahneman, like, you know, people have a gut level reaction to things and then often they engage their reasoning just to justify the gut level reaction?
See, this is a perfect example, right? Because I'm deeply familiar with the concept. I see people do it all the time.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
of course.
be able to tell you the name of it at all.
Well, yeah, I figured a lot of writers come to this stuff like intuitively. They kind of figure it out. There was one thing that you said in your video that I think really got, you know, under people's skin to the point where they probably just completely checked out after that. I'm curious if you know what it is. I mean, I can tell you what it is.
I think
obviously.
so. Is it the what? And look, I'm saying it in the out of context way where I say people don't really enjoy the act of drawing.
You got it. You ding 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 ding. Like everybody was like, "What?" Which I mean, even myself.
I believe that was inartfully spoken.
Even myself. I mean, even myself. I was like, "Oh, he's gonna get in trouble for that one." Why would he say something like that?
I tried to defend you, Shad. I tried.
Thanks, man. The fundamental point I was making, I feel, is still correct, but people.
But I know, I know.
So wait, but what did you mean by that? What did you mean by that, Sen?
That it's not the mechanical movement of the action that people are actually enjoying about the creation of art. It's combining it with but not just that. It's the combination of the two, right?
Right.
I mean, I don't sit down and get a piece of wood that's in the shape of a pencil and move it over a blank piece of paper and achieve nothing with it for the pure joy of the tactile sensation and the mechanical movement.
Okay.
No one does that.
Well, Shad, come on now. Look, you gotta at least. I mean, understand this. It seems like there's a tiny bit of bias here. Obviously, you don't like that, but I do think a lot of people do enjoy that.
No.
The mechanical movement.
What he's saying is like no one's going to take a pencil and they're just going to like do scribble. They're just going to do nothing. Like they're not drawing a picture. They're just moving a pencil back and forth with the paper. The actual movement is not what brings them enjoyment. It's that they're creating something specifically. They're drawing
I think
a
it's
picture
hard
that has
for
meaning and
people.
value.
I think it's hard for people to separate the physical act of doing that and the creation process to the point where if you say, you know, you are separating the two. And I do think people, they just have like a gut level reaction to know that is what I enjoy doing. And you're kind of telling me that I'm wrong. And that's where they're like...
The framing of this sentence is very triggering, I think.
Yes, it
Even
is.
though I agree with what you're saying. Like, I think by comparison to be, you know, back in the day when they edited film, they had to like literally cut the film,
nobody
glue it
wants
together. Right.
Yes.
And so it'd be like, oh, nobody... So it'd be like saying, nobody likes...
You see, look, Mike, right here.
Exactly. Right. And I feel like to me that's like fucking horrendous, and I get just as much as enjoyment like having it in my computer where I just press a button and it does those.
But
some
people dig it, man. Some people like.
Well, more power to them. Listen, you know. But
so I'm glad. I'm glad. Obviously, you know, you're debating this stuff. So
right.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I do actually see very few people who have a larger platform engaging in it. And I think, honestly, a lot of it is because of the fear mob and the hate mob that is ready to pounce, like, just look what's happened to me. I'm ready to do it. Like I was prepared that something like this could happen going in. Didn't expect it would be this aggressive because my other AI videos have done pretty well, and so to me that's actually an indication that most of the people watching the video aren't from my direct community, and they're coming in from outside to dogpile on it. And,
well, no, that's kind of why I asked you, because like I said, we talk about psychology and moral psychology on the channel quite a bit, and there is really a fever running hot right now that passions are high. A lot of people think we've got to do something about this now. It's now or never, and I don't know that intensity is sustainable. And it does seem like it kind of came out of nowhere because I've been watching AI videos for months now, and I'm fascinated by it. I'm fascinated by the debate around it. I have a MFA in art, not an MFA, a BFA, a Bachelor's of Fine Arts. And I mean, I feel like a lot of people who are having this conversation are kind of ignoring the last 200 years of art history because
yes.
I feel like a lot of this we've already been through. There's this guy, Jackson Pollock, that used to like drizzle on canvas and everyone lost their shit because, obviously that's not art. There's no effort in it, right? It's so... But it is a fascinating dialogue to have, and I'm glad to see people are talking about it. Art is like a hip thing now again.
Yeah, the fear that has really been stoked about has been by some of the larger kind of voices in art have been speaking out against it and getting a lot of traction, and therefore the misinformation has been spread. And then like the falsehoods and false equivalents where they try and share like an image that seems to have very clearly been done in image to image, which is a literal type of copying tool within the AI, and they think the AI just spat it out with text generation and look, the AI is inherently making stuff that is copying other people's work. And it's like if you're doing text to image, it's almost impossible to get such a one-to-one duplication out of that. There are very specific things within the AI that you would need to do to get such a direct duplication. That's the person doing it, right? But then they share these things that it's inherently copying. It's just a thing that just copies other artists and producers' work that is copied to their things as like mishmacking, making collages and stuff.
How's that work? They put in some image and then
So you can put in an image, right, and select only a portion of that image to change. And so one came up on Twitter yesterday where, and it was a good example of people using it in bad faith, where they just used it to change the texture of the bikini of this girl that was wearing, and her facial expression, and everything else was identical. And you can do that in the AI generations by putting in an image and just asking it to remake certain elements, and everything else is basically identical. And that's an individual choosing to copy 90% of this image one for one.
And it's some image that they got on the internet.
Yes. And this is not an inherent problem with AI. You could have done this in Photoshop, okay, and get the exact same result where you only tweak one or two things, right? But when you pass it off saying, oh, well, I've changed it, therefore it's validly mine under a transformative kind of use, that's disingenuous.
Well,
that's not, by the way, not that one nowhere near had enough change to appeal to a fair use defense of it. But then there are other ones that artists have tried to say, look, the AI copy like the composition exactly the same, but then nearly everything else is different. The hair color, the clothings, the exact kind of positioning of the lines and stuff, where there is easily enough difference for it to be considered a fair use interpretation of the original. And then they say, no, this is copying. It's like, actually, no, that's not. Well, it's what a type of copying, because there's a lot of type of copying with a lot of changes still in place, right? It's not a direct duplication, but people are appealing to it like it is, and therefore in breach of their copyright. And again, like a lot of them misunderstand how AI is being used, and then they spread these examples online that a lot of people see, and then that convinces them 100%. I've seen the evidence. It's an inherently artist stealing machine, and anyone who defends against it is an evil, terrible person. And Shad, I thought better of you, and it's like I literally this in the video.
I used to be a fan.
Just so I'm clear exactly what's happening here. So I know because CT turned me on to Midjourney forever ago, and Midjourney is like, I mean, it's crazy amazing. But Midjourney, you go in And I think they've updated a bit so you can put images in now and use the image. But the original Midjourney, when it first came out, you'd type in some prompts and a picture would come out, and the picture was pretty amazing. So people
is it still on Discord?
Yeah, it is. Midjourney's still going. Yeah, definitely. So, so there is now the ability to put in a picture and tell the AI, oh, change the picture this way,
Yes.
right? Make it so she's smiling, change her bikini to red, whatever you want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people are doing this. They're getting a picture off the internet that's somebody else's artwork, which, this would be the equivalent of a trace if somebody was doing it in Photoshop, right? They're putting it in the thing and they're making minor changes. And then they're saying, this is AI art. And people are assuming that someone's going and typing in the prompts and the AI is just finding a picture on the internet and copying it. When that's not remotely
that's
what's
not
happening.
happening at all. Exactly.
Right. The
Exactly.
person is doing this. The person
it's the
found
person.
the piece of artwork and is
Yes.
copying the piece of artwork. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And getting
Yeah.
and the image to image can change those input images to such a drastic extent where the output is nearly unrecognizable.
Right.
And so there is ability to change it drastically, but then there's also ability to upgrade your art into.
But Shad, they've
phenomenal
already
style.
selected an awesome picture off of the internet. Why would they want to change it?
Well, I've shown multiple examples. Have you seen some of my? I show it.
Well,
in my
I did.
video.
I did watch
Yeah.
your video, yeah. And I mean, no, I've seen a bunch of the Midjourney stuff. So I mean, I know the effects of this. But I'm into technology and AI, and I realize that this is kind of like an offshoot technology that wasn't even really planned. They're really trying to get
Yep.
AGI, this is what they want to do. And I mean, you got to be insane to not want this. Like the chatbot AI that we were talking about, they want to walk up and be able to say, how do you cure cancer?
Yes.
And the thing to spit out, here's how you do it. Look, I looked at all the research. I looked at this is why they're feeding medical records to it. It's like it's a black box. They don't know how it works. So the idea that people are like, oh, we have to, I mean, I'm getting older. I mean, I want a cure for cancer, right? Like
Yes.
we want to put the brakes on this. I'm kind of thinking maybe we don't want to put the brakes on this. So, but that's a different story altogether. This is kind of just like a side quest on the thing. But it is fascinating. I understand why people are upset about it. And I mean, it's baller of you to jump into the eye of the storm like this. I guess you did a video with your brother's also on YouTube, right?
Yeah, Jazza. Jazza's huge.
Yeah,
He's
art
a
with
big art
Jazza.
YouTuber.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and he's done some videos on this, and what were the reaction on those videos?
So I got way more backlash because, like I said, I'm jumping into the eye of the storm and addressing the most controversial aspects of it. Jazza, he actually got a little bit cautious with it, and he has a disclaimer at the beginning of the video to try and soften the blow for some people.
He
saying there's a
knew
lot-
not to say the drawing thing. Why didn't you run it by him first?
And because he softened the blow, he had less backlash, say, to my video, but still got far greater backlash than he deserved, because the video is really positive and showing how it can be a benefit and improve your art and stuff.
Right.
And because people are fearful and everything, and there were just comments about, I can't believe you're doing this. I thought better of you and all that stuff. And comments like that. What do they think that's supposed to achieve? Like
It's the same crap NFT artists got for the past 2 years, dude.
Well, NFT artists, we kind of understand where it's coming from. So,
Have you seen that meme where it's The Simpsons and it's not Barney, it's Moe kicking Barney out, and it says that's AI art, and then Moe shows up behind him, and it's NFT art, and then Moe shows up behind him, and it's AI art.
I haven't, but I'll check it out. So, what are there any super chats on this, Sitch?
Yeah. Aiden. Thank you, Aiden. Aiden for $10. Says, on liking drawing, have any of you done much gesture drawing, as in 3 to 5 minute sets with a model? It's all motion capturing the moment. I think that helps with the strenuousness of drawing. Cheers.
Yeah, I've done
that's
tons of
basically
that.
like
Yeah. Love it.
Yep.
Gene the Angry Penguin for $5 says, hasn't there been some court findings in the US saying AI art isn't copyrightable as it must have a human creator component to be copyrighted? I know there's cases pending now.
Yeah, it
I
hasn't
don't
been
know if
settled.
Yeah,
People
I
are
assume it's all
saying that
too
it's
recent.
a confirmed thing. Like there's a Reddit that I follow that's the defense of AI stuff, and they share that Nana, the guy that's actually in the court case, has made a statement saying it's not settled, not at all. Like
Right.
Do you know this?
And they're going to appeal or fight it or continue going with it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the story of the property rights used to be that you owned, your land all the way down to the center of the earth and like all the way up into the heavens, and then all of a sudden they invented air traffic and everyone was like, what the fuck? This plane is like flying through my property here.
Right.
And so, farmers were like, what, hey, we want a piece of the action. And they just immediately like cut that off. They're like, okay, you only own up to this high. I sense something like that is going to happen with this AI thing, but I have no idea how it plays out because it's a completely game-changing technology.
It is, and like lawmakers are usually so disconnected to reality that I am a little concerned that they could just make something that does not make sense in a bullcrap law, and because, like, for instance, if you look at my it's on DeviantArt, the images where I input my beginning image and I'm able to upgrade it into a much higher thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is working so much off of my image, and I did so much damn work. I'm talking like up to 6 hours on these things to get that final result, that it was impossible for the AI on its own to do that. That was my piece of work that came out as a result, that I was using AI as a tool to enhance it, which and so it would be ridiculous in the extreme to say I don't have copyright over that result, especially because it's based off of my copyrighted intellectual property to begin with. And so of course I have the copyright for the AI, assisted piece of artwork that was result, because of, and even prompt artwork where you click and generate. I feel the person generating it should absolutely have the ownership over that image. They're the one who's telling the AI to create it. Wouldn't exist without them. And so absolutely a copyright. I don't like the copyright laws, by the way. I think copyright should only last maybe 50 years at most.
Well, the copyright law has been seriously manipulated by corporations and whatnot.
Dog crap. It infuriates me. I think that is restricting the creative kind of potential of humanity in a really big way.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely. Metalworks 411.90 for $5 says, I'm fine with AI art as long as it's the references are legally bought and not infringed upon people's copyright.
It doesn't infringe people's copyright, though, the references. Like, they don't understand copyright law. Like, copyright protects from duplication, reproduction without consent, and distributing and stuff like that. That doesn't happen when you train the AI on that at all. Okay, like if you wanted to draw a legal equivalent where you are showing a computer or allowing a computer to process that art, every single freaking artist on the planet allows it to do that as soon as they save their image onto a computer. Okay, the precedent, if you wanted to draw of what's already been happening for quite a long time, exists in allowing a computer to process and quote unquote see an artwork. It's happening all the friggin' time. Okay, that's what is essentially happening with the AI. It's just processing it in a different way for a different outcome. But in terms of actually what's happening, it's not infringing anyone's copyright at all.
Hey, speaking of AI, Adam, check your Twitter DMs. I just had that chat bot create you a rap song.
Oh, no way. That's hilarious. Write me lyrics to the rap song about Adam Friended in the style of the Beastie Boys. Hey, nice.
And like another point to make about this, the models, right, that were trained off of these images do not store those images in them at all. Okay. There's if you open it up, you won't find an image there. No, yeah. What it is, it's an algorithm, it's code that, and even if you were to try and break down that code, you would never get an image out of it. Because what it is, it's a learning kind of algorithm that has tried to figure out the mathematical patterns within art, and it's learned off of billions of images. These models are like a couple of gig, right? And you're saying that it is storing billions of images in a couple of gig? Like, it's literally impossible.
Right.
The data sets are like terabytes.
Yeah, exactly. And so these models are a mathematical algorithm that has taught the AI how to deconstruct and reconstruct patterns from noise or diffusion models. Okay. That's what's actually in these things, not actual art.
Yeah, I think what the underlying emotions that people, or some people, feel like if a person spends their time to create like a piece of art, and then a computer algorithm uses that piece of art to, create a program or to create an algorithm that is able to produce art in the future, they feel like, well, they used my work for their benefit, so therefore I should be compensated for that.
One, not their work is not the sole thing that enables that to work.
Right, it would be
the AI
everyone
off of a single image. It would be crap. Absolutely, you couldn't do dog crap with it. Okay, to say it was my artwork that enabled it, no, it actually takes billions of artworks to even get something that is mildly workable.
Right.
From that, but even if you were to say it was the single one, there's precedent set in artistic practice from like you can do it individually to achieve that same result. Copying someone's artwork to reinterpret it and draw something in that style. You can do it with yourself manually. You could do it with Photoshop. So there's already like a precedent using a program to be able to help you copy and duplicate styles in a new way or combine things. And so when they try and say you need my consent for this, it's like, sorry, you've there's already precedent where this type of thing has been allowed in standard artistic practice for hundreds, if not thousands of years. The issue people have is that AI can do it really well and they feel threatened by it.
Right.
Well, and also, I mean, this is why I brought up the example of the flying thing, because it was something nobody ever conceived of. Like when people will say, I didn't develop my art to teach robots how to draw. They're like, that's a use of my artwork that I never anticipated. Like I anticipated that people would use my artwork to gain inspiration from. I mean, that's part of the goal of art. But this is just something that's completely, no one fathomed it.
That's right. Yet there's let me just look up a note I have that I've been taking lots of notes.
You're like, I'm gonna come up with some counter arguments here, which I like because this is how humans work. Like they figure it out on the ground. They really do.
Like here's an interesting example. Like artists saying, you should have my consent for the AI to learn off of my style.
Yes, there you go. You got it.
Right. Okay, so what if a human looks at that style, draws an image in that style, but it's a completely different image, right? Then draws, say, 100 of those duplicating that style, and there are thousands of artists that are talented to do this and can easily replicate someone else's style, right? And then with these images that they individually made, that they based off of someone else's style, they want to input that into the AI and train the AI for that.
Yeah, that's going to happen. That's
exactly
happen.
like, and then will the original artist that was originally copied from that other artist say the AI is trained off of my style? Like, guess what? Humans can copy people's style. No, but you can't copyright style, right? This should be understood. For anyone who draws anime, for instance, okay,
where did that style even come from? Because that's not like one guy's style, right? Like that's not the Van Gogh style.
Yeah, if you want to bring it back to one of the original catalysts for it, you would say it's probably Astro Boy, and Astro Boy was inspired by Betty Boop in terms of the eye. Yeah, if you look this up, and so that was one of the progenitors, you could say, at the beginning of the anime style.
Like anime is an entire genre now that I don't really even think of as like a single artist's style.
Yeah, and there are so many artists saying it's wrong for the AI to be trained off of my style when they're drawing in a style that is copied that's similar to like many other styles.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Like Pablo Picasso has a style that we all recognize as that dude came up with that style. Same was like Salvador Dali. But anime, I'm thinking about this because everyone's making videos on it. I started thinking, well, where's the guy for anime. Who's the Van Gogh of anime? Where did the anime come from? So
Astro Boy, I'm pretty sure.
Disney.
Astro Boy is the artist or the
No, the so who's the Van Gogh of that?
Okay.
I would say it's Astro Boy.
Osamu Tezuka?
Yeah, but of course, modern anime is being gradually molded and changed from the original Astro Boy style.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah,
This is how art works over time. It's awesome.
exactly. And so to try and claim ownership over a single style is like, even Van Gogh can't do that, because what about convergent evolution, where someone naturally comes to that style, which is almost, it could be almost identical, but they developed it independently without ever seeing a Pablo Picasso image, but it ends up looking exactly in that style. Okay. People have I get really annoyed when people try and claim ownership over things which other individuals could come to develop independently on their own. And so like people understand this is why patent law and invention only lasts for like 20 years or so or something like that, because the other people can come to these ideas as well, and to claim ownership over this idea and no one else can even use this idea, even if they were to come up with themselves, is a type of unrighteous dominion. It's wrong. I don't think it's moral at all to do that, because people can develop things on their own. And let's not restrict human creativity.
Hey guys, I got to take my kid to Muay Thai.
All right, we should
Thanks
wrap
for coming
up.
on, Mike.
Yeah, we should wrap up anyway.
All right.
But
Well,
take care. Yeah, thanks for coming on, Mike.
Thanks
Hey, Mike.
for the invite, Shad. Great to see you. Adam, Sitch, nice to meet you.
Nice to
hope
meet
we can
you.
do it again sometime.
Yeah,
Yeah,
take care,
definitely.
man.
All right.
Take care. Taking his kid to Muay Thai. See, that's what you should do.
Based.
I know. I always want to take a martial art. I don't know. My mom just didn't want to do it for some reason. So sad.
Now, did I answer that question? Because sometimes I can get a little.
Yeah, no, I think you did. Yeah, I think you did. It's an incredibly complicated question, and it's just moving too fast, I think, for people to wrap their heads around, which is understandable. I mean, I'm like, is this a fair comparison to say, like, if you're gonna open a restaurant, and so you're like, okay, how do I run this restaurant? So then you spend a month going into like other restaurants, and you just sit there and you kind of like order and you observe how the other restaurants are
that
using.
happens. That totally
no,
happens.
Of course, right. I'm saying, so you're going to the other restaurant, you observe how it operates, and then after doing that for a month, you go and open your own restaurant, and you use all that information to run your restaurant. Would that be like a fair comparison to kind of like the references for AI art?
Well, actually, the difference is that instead of the person going in to observe the other restaurant, a machine has done it for the person so they save time.
Well, right, obviously.
Yeah,
right.
But this is the thing. People try and say that changes the analogy because a machine shouldn't be allowed to do that. But I think that's actually shifting the goalposts again, because it's an individual wanting a machine to do it for them. So it's down to person's right as well. The person is actually still the one causing and doing this. They're just trying to make the process more efficient and easier by getting a machine to do a lot of the groundwork, but it's still the individual wanting to do it, choosing to do it.
Right. Well, I mean, part of the issue is, and people bring this up in chat, which is true, like the way which the human brain works and the way the AI works is very different. We don't even really fully understand how either of them work. But it's kind of like if, say, like hypothetically, if all humans had that ability, I forget what it's called, to like draw everything perfectly, like just look at something and draw it perfectly, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because it would just been an accepted fact of like life that like, well, what do you mean copyright the picture? Everyone can just look at it and draw it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's just kind of like, this is rendering the brave new world. You're not going to be able to change or stop this technology. It's gonna exist, and you're just gonna have to kind of deal with it.
They want to make legal things that will restrict its use and stuff like that, and that's going to really kneecap. I don't think it will, but even say, let's hypothetically they did, where you need a license to use AI art, and it's wholly regulated, which is impossible because the technology has been released open source, and so there would be a black market
underground or illegal.
Yeah, it would be underground, and then there are also other countries that do embrace it, will use it to benefit and outstrip everyone and outsource it. And so then you're saying we're doing it to protect the artists, so people will be forced to hire artists for stock image, concept work and stuff like that, when there'll be other countries that will offer that same service for a fraction. When I say a fraction, like 100th of the price.
Right.
And what do you think people and individuals are going to do? All right.
Of course.
Yeah.
It'll be like,
getting
like now they outsource a lot of animation for shows to
exactly
other countries. And it's like, oh, well, they're going to just outsource the AI generated animation from another country.
Exactly,
So,
exactly. And so what they're doing is actually going to harm artists more in the long run, because the way that they're able to compete is by using it to enhance their workflow, and therefore that will keep jobs in the country. Because if you ban it in the country, companies will just hire it from other countries that allow it.
Right.
And so they're harming themselves by this push to try and regulate and restrict it. And it's not going to help
Yeah.
artists out. I'm sorry.
Sure. And I mean, this is what happens with all new technologies. This was Adam always likes to talk about the people that were very upset when they were switching from gas-powered streetlights to electric lamps. The people that would manage the gas lamps were very upset by this, obviously.
Of course.
Yeah. Even a more direct parallel: painters, portrait people who made portraits, everything were outraged when photograph was invented. Yeah. Okay, there's even like images that anti-photography made by artists and stuff that you can find out and look at today. It's a very similar parallel, but look at the benefits that photography has offered, where anyone can capture a scene in time, and you can have memories of your family members that have passed away that are held there forever, that you're able to do with the press of a button. That is phenomenal. What an amazing thing for people and society and stuff. Okay. And so the advanced technology that makes stuff, yes, automated in a way that it's accessible to everyone and cheaper and more affordable, has usually been a massive net benefit for society. And the same here. There's going to be great opportunities now. I'm so excited for indie authors that they now have access to some of the best quality cover art, to where before they could not been able to afford it. And by the way, I'm still going to be paying for the best human artists to make my covers on my books, because human-made art is always going to be more prestigious. It's going to be a premium now. Handmade art is going to have that feel to it. And that's why I'm going to still work with human artists, but there are people who can't afford it. It costs thousands of dollars. And for them to be outcompeted just because they don't have the resources I do is friggin' crap. I want them to be able to make cover art that looks just as amazing, and now they can, and I'm so excited for them. And also, not just that, we're going to be able to compete with Hollywood so much more easier as time progresses now. We'll be able to get better access to better graphics, to produce really great quality visuals in film and things, to the point where you can make big budget films at a fraction of the cost with this AI technology. To be out for the indie upcoming people, you need insane amounts of money to make something on the level of, say, Avatar. Well, give it a few years, suddenly competition is going to be so much more, accessible. And I'm excited for that, because this is going to give an explosion to human creativity of the likes I don't think people have seen ever. And we're just going to get more awesome stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I agree completely with the idea that this is just on the benefit level, this is going to unlock so much more stuff that it's worth it. But I don't think that satisfies people's emotional problem with it.
No, it doesn't. I'm kind of trying to do that by telling them you don't need to worry, because you can use this to benefit yourself as well. Okay?
Right.
And that's why I'm excited.
That's the one place where I worry, because then it really becomes like a limited access thing. I guess people do have access to it just via the internet, though. Like Midjourney is basically free. You just sign up with Discord. So
Stable Diffusion literally is free, and you have a lot more freedom how to use that on your own local computer by choosing the model and inputs. But
you have to have the computer and the GPU and stuff. And I know, like, a lot.
True.
Yeah, but what are you? I mean, you can say that about like anything, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So go ahead. Spencer Harmon for $20 says, thank you, Spencer. Says, I'm very behind, but there's a big focus on finding the missing link between humans and apes. Skeptics of evolution are interested in finding other missing links with the animal kingdom. Any missing link would be nice. So my understanding with the whole missing link concept is that it's kind of like impossible to find a quote unquote missing link, because it's like, it's not like, it's like, okay, if you line up like the fossil record of all humans as they, evolve from the primate that they evolved from, like what part of it do you point to and say, like, this is the missing link? Like, this is the exact point that like humans, delineated from monkeys. Like, you can't really find that exact thing. It doesn't exist in that conceptually doesn't exist that way.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you feel about evolution, Shad, but we had a conversation with Mike about it before.
So, I'm always, I'm actually really passionate into science and stuff. I'm also very deeply religious. And just because so much settled to science ends up being disproven, I'm always happy to say, well, this is the most likely, scientific kind of possibility, reality. For now, we'll see what we might discover in the future. And at the moment, evolution seems to be very much the most convincing thing. It doesn't faze me at all. I think evolution fits into the concept of intelligent design perfectly. I know in my own religious readings and stuff, I think you can actually not only read the Bible, but I'm a Latter-day Saint, and so we have Book of Mormon, Doctrine and Covenants, Bill of Great Price and stuff. We also look to as divine scripture. And when I look at the entire standard works that we have, evolution actually fits into it very well doctrinally, especially when we look at some of the deeper kind of doctrinal teachings of my own faith in terms of intelligence, chaotic matter, and the true, for me, I consider what the gospel definition of what true life and death is, progression and retrogression. Evolution fits in with it perfectly fine. I don't have an issue with it. Science could change everything, and something else might rise to the surface. But at the moment, evolution is a really intriguing thing.
Based and agreed.
Yeah.
Guy for $10 says, Adam, you should check out the video CIA in the art world. New York Americans Untold Stories. They go into the CIA sponsoring artists like Jackson Pollock in the 1940s.
I'll check that out. That sounds right up my alley, to be honest with you.
What was the point of them
sorry
doing
to just interject on the evolution thing. Can I just point out a really interesting kind of observation that I personally have?
Go for it.
So in Genesis, in the creation of Adam, there's a really interesting thing that says God created Adam and then placed him in the garden. Okay, and I just find that very intriguing, because why didn't God create Adam in the garden? Why was Adam created in a separate location and then needed to be physically placed in the Garden of Eden?
Interesting.
I find that very, very interesting. But if you actually look at that reading from an evolutionary kind of lens, when the first man that can be considered a man actually evolved, and you can look at the wording figurative there, when God made Adam from the dust of the earth, well, I feel that could be a figurative, description of a type of, birth process evolution. Yeah. And then when, there was a physical body that was ready to receive the first human soul or spirit, he was then picked up and placed in the garden, and so I find interesting little clues, even when you look at the scripture, that reflect an evolutionary kind of perspective. I find it very interesting that the days of creation follow the evolutionary model in terms of what gets made first.
Right.
So that's
water.
So you're basically saying like God automated the creation process of humans and then placed them in the garden once we reached
God
some level
AI'd
of
the
consciousness.
humans.
No, I like it. I mean, I do.
The black. I like the idea that like God is like, here's the black box of the Earth AI. I want you to spit out like a human eventually at the end of it.
The thing is, like,
once you get the human, God's like, here's your soul.
Even from a religious perspective, we feel that there are miracles and amazing things happen that actually are the result of the course of nature. And then, skeptics will say it's just nature running its course. It's like, well, what if God is just working through natural means to achieve his ends? I think he's perfectly capable. Not only is perfectly capable, my own personal interpretation, that's actually his preference.
Yeah,
whenever God is able to work through a natural means that he is able to put in a system to achieve it, he always does that as the first preference.
Sure. I agree.
Yeah.
But do you think that like the Garden of Eden was literal, or do you think it's metaphorical?
This is the thing. I'm a bit more liberal and open in my scriptural interpretation than perhaps most Latter-day Saints you will find, I think. And so don't think I'm speaking for my faith or this is my personal, thoughts. It could be either way, and it doesn't faze me either way. If you were to ask what do I actually think right now, I'd say the Garden of Eden is a literal location. But it's interesting what is actually already in the scriptures set up as a figurative thing. And God has already shown very happily that he is perfectly, in fact, likes to teach truth through figure, through symbology, like through figurative language. The whole concept of parables. Jesus did this all the time, where he would share a fictional tale that technically wasn't true, to teach a very profound truth. That's the whole point behind a parable. And so the practice of teaching truth through figurative descriptions is something that God does all the time, and so it can go either way. And but the thing is, God is real, and he can impose his will more directly on the world to do and more miraculous things to happen as well. And so therefore either way, and I'm perfectly fine with it.
Right. For me, the Eden story hits me so closely as like a metaphor for, you have growing up, you have a child who just listens to the parent basically unquestioningly. Then of course they become a teenager, and what do they do? For the parent that provides everything
They
for
rebel.
them, well, they do
Yeah,
the exact
they
thing
break
the one
rules.
thing you tell them not to do. They go and do it, and then they grow up and become a young adult, and they have to go out in the world and provide for themselves, get married, have children.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, to me, it seems very clearly to me that's sort of like what the story is
Did you
about.
get that from Jordan Peterson, man? That sounds like such a Jordan Peterson thing.
I didn't get it from him, but I would imagine he would give a similar reading on it, because that's kind of how he reads all the stuff. But
Yeah.
Well,
That's
for
awesome.
me at the moment, I do take a lot of the Adam and Eve story more literal, that there is a physical Garden of Eden. Yeah.
Is it in? Was it? Some people think it's like in Mississippi or something.
Jackson County, Missouri is
There you
the
go.
place that Mormons believe it was. And in terms of how did humanity move from the U.S.
There
continent
to
to the
Africa.
African continent? It was during the flood.
Okay.
From a story perspective, is it not best if it is literal and metaphorical at the same time? I feel like that's like the
Sure.
sweet spot for any
Sure.
narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it's literal, does that mean Adam and Eve were black?
Oh, I guess so.
Right. There you go.
I mean, if you were to ask me, I would say no, because I think the melanin, the skin pigment, is a result of natural
later.
evolution to environment, and it's an addition to.
Look at that.
Yeah.
It's
Sure,
Yeah,
I
no,
guess that's-
right. Yeah.
Well, I guess it would
Where it
depend,
is
because
in
you're
the
saying
world.
you were saying that, like, okay, so humans evolved and then God placed them in the Eden, but I guess it depends where exactly those humans
Look, he
evolved
said it was
from.
Kentucky. He just. Oh
No.
Well, no, it could have happened anyway, because if God
Right.
picked up
Like-
Adam and placed him in the garden, and
Right. So humans could have evolved in Africa, then God could have picked them
Yeah.
up, put them in Missouri in the Garden of
Mhm.
Eden.
And by the way, like, if Adam ends up actually being black, it's like, well, there you go. It doesn't phase me.
There you go.
It's
Yeah, it
just
doesn't
like,
make a difference.
It doesn't matter.
Right. Rich Jammer for 9 months. Thank you. Says, as a guy who does art and animation as a hobby, I'm excited about AI art. A team knows the way. Team S class goes to mass. There you go.
Yeah, no, I think people. I mean, my intuition, and obviously we're feeling this out, and everyone wants to make sure that it's done ethically. Like no babies were killed in the making of this artificial intelligence. So, but my intuition is that a lot of people will get a lot of joy out of this. Like a lot of people will use it for. When I first started doing illustration, I swear I used to get like emails, like 3 a week, from somebody who wanted me to illustrate a children's book for them. I was amazed at how many people in the world wanted to make a children's book.
Yes.
And as soon as this AI art started coming along, I thought, oh, those people are happy now.
Oh yeah, like so many people can make things that they were restricted to before
Yeah.
because they didn't have the money or means to do it.
Totally.
And most likely, people are probably going to give a preference, if they have the means and money to do it, to human-made art, because of the feel, the sense of authenticity and stuff. Even though I actually feel there's an argument to be made that AI art is a type of human-made art. Humans made the AI, and human is prompting and asking it to produce these things. But actual, hand-drawn made art like that is always going to be more prestigious because it was harder to produce, to make. And that's the same in the real world. There are crafts that have been automated away, that don't exist anymore, but still artisans that work and make things that are still able to sell their products. Like, for instance, so much of what was once made through blacksmithing is now made in factories by machines. Just, you know, the cutlery, like that you use to eat with and everything. You think a human made that? All right, that is all machine made en masse to be able to enable you to get access to it at a vastly cheaper price. There's a reason why cutlery wasn't as, you know, widely spread in the medieval period, because it was expensive. It needed to be handmade as a fact. But I mean, how many people are crying over all the jobs that blacksmiths lost because machines are now making stuff for them? No, we celebrate the fact that we can get access to complex made things at such an affordable price, which is a wonderful thing. Yet guess what? There are still blacksmiths in the world that are making things by hand and are able to live off of it, because the handmade kind of prestige feeling of actual someone doing the work themselves is always going to be there. Always.
Yeah, that's another. People act like they're talking about making drawing illegal or painting illegal. It's like,
really?
No, no, you can still do that. That's all up to you. And I mean, AI art has a certain like look to it, a certain feel to it, which obviously it will, you know, it will improve on that. But
right, it'll change.
Yeah.
Andrew Clark Fajar says, Shad, is Shiny FX one of the debaters?
I should reach out to him. He didn't say he wanted to. He did, but so I'll send him a message, actually, see if he's available, because I know he wants to talk to me about it. So I'd love to chat about it with Shiny. Although Shiny, I wasn't reaching out for this one, because this one is I'm going to be limited on time, and I think Shiny and me are going to sit down for a longer term and try and go through all of his objections. That's what I was kind of preempting, even though we hadn't spoken specifically about it, but I suspect it's going to go that way.
And you're doing this as recorded conversations, not as live streams? That's probably like a better angle anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah, I want to clip it into just a video that's me responding to multiple things, comments, tweets, and stuff, and put it all together.
Yeah.
Well, also, I feel like people might be more open to change their mind. It's not live.
Yeah, exactly. If they're not in front of a bunch of people who are telling them, "Get him, Shat! Look, he's a baby killer. Get him!"
Right. Gene the Angry Penguin for $5 says they wouldn't give an ape copyright over a photo it took because it wasn't a human. I think they'll find the same with AI. Yeah, I think that's fair.
I don't know, because I mean, this is a disingenuous argument, but you whittle it down to the same kind of perspective. When for a human to take a photograph is just pressing a button, okay? For a human to make AI art is just pressing a button, you know?
Right.
And so I think absolutely humans should have copyright over the stuff that they make through AI, especially because you can have so much more artistic, creative input to get the results, especially when I'm working off a pre-made image that I started with. That's easily still 95% mine, and AI is just enhancing it. And so it's baffling and ridiculous to try and say I wouldn't have copyright over the result. And because we give copyright for photography, there's going to be a very direct parallel to try and say, you know, how much work is a human involved in AI then? And then if they appeal to that standard, that equivalence, I have a feeling that, you'll find copyrighted AI made stuff attributed to the person who's generating it illegally.
Yeah, that makes sense. When I went on Twitter, I searched to see your tweet. And when I typed your name in, like it was by like latest tweet. And the latest tweet that came up when I searched for this said, I just saw Shadiversity AI take and dug a little deeper to find out he's a straight up alt-right channel now.
No way. Oh my.
There you go. I didn't know.
All opinions invalidated. Everything I say is evil and wrong as a result.
You knew that was coming though, right? That's like this is one of the most ironic things about the debate, because so obviously that person's got, you know, kind of a leftist bent, right? Aren't they the ones that want to flatten hierarchies? It's like, I feel like this AI thing is really about flattening hierarchies, you know, but they're like, oh, but not the hierarchy I'm at the top of, obviously.
Right.
Don't flatten that hierarchy.
Well, it's like, I'm looking at your channel. It's like, okay, so your last video is AI art, and then you have like castle video, how to fight with giant swords, you know, HEMA video, shoot arrows with message. Like, where's the alt-right angle?
Yes. Well, they're referring to Night's Watch, my other channel.
Oh, okay.
But people
what
can't seem
happens
to
there?
separate the two. Oh, you don't know Night's Watch?
No, I'm not familiar.
Oh, well,
Is
just
that
looking at
that's where you
thumbnails.
hide all the alt-right content?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Do you really, I don't like Shad, are you like right wing? Would people call you
I'm religious.
far right?
Far right is a retarded term. I'm a standard conservative in most cases, though. Like the whole lumping everyone to boxes through these titles is dumb, because I have opinions that are more, so like in line with like social welfare and things. I think certain social safety nets are a good thing and stuff. And of course, all my political views are more nuanced than just, oh, I'm a conservative. But in more cases than not, I fall into a very standard kind of conservative outlook. It's just that, the extreme left are trying to paint standard conservatives as alt-right racists and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's a racism.
Right.
Really, it's just a euphemism for racism. That's what they mean.
Exactly.
Well, we already asked you about the black Adam and Eve, and you passed the test, so I don't like.
Oh, did I?
There you go.
What's the problem?
There you go.
here?
We proved
Is that
not
a
alt-right.
test?
Shad.
Look, he said he didn't care about the black Adam and Eve. I mean, that's
There you
good
go.
enough for me. I don't know. I don't know what more we can do.
Andrew Clark, for $2 says, Adam, check your DMs.
I did. Andrew Clark is wants to continue about the abortion debate, so I don't know.
Oh, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Guy for $20 says, God created the planets before the sun. That does not seem consistent with evolution. Is that true? God created the planets before the sun in the Bible?
He said, "Let there be light." Wasn't that the first thing?
Yeah, I thought that was the
yes, but is there a different passage about light and the sun being different or not?
He separated the darkness from
the light. Yeah, I always thought that was the sun.
I could quickly
or the
look it
Big
up.
Bang.
Is it not?
Right.
Yeah. It's not that hard to look up.
But
Genesis 1,
that
let
would
there
be
be light.
inconsistent with evolution, I believe. Well, I've seen those things on how the planets and sun kind of form together in just a huge whirling dust cloud, right? That's condensed down to the sun, and the planets are spinning further out.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of interesting.
Okay, well. Thunderstorm for $5 says, if looking for an alternative view on anthropology, I suggest YouTuber Robert Sephir.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sorry. Just looking at Genesis, so I see where they're coming. So, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And so that's their reading, that the face of the waters and the deep and the earth was in place before the sun. If you're looking at a strict reading from Genesis.
Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see.
Maybe it's a typo.
God created the heavens and the earth. It's the first line, yeah. Then the earth was formless and empty.
This is the thing, right? There are so many easy interpretations to be able to still fit this into an evolutionary lens. Okay?
Of course.
I mean, what you could say, was Earth a rogue planet, okay, in the middle of space, and then God brought it into a solar system or whatever? There are so many easy explanations to be able to have an evolutionary kind of viewpoint and still follow the strict reading of the scripture as well. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, and also you don't really have to follow a strict and literal interpretation of it either, right?
Well, I believe it. Well, it's funny, right? It's divinely inspired, but
right,
us Mormons are a little out. We fall out of the mold of we fall out of the mold of Christianity, where we say things that more traditional Christians find heretical. Like we actually acknowledge that there are errors in the Bible through mistranslation and retranslations and things.
Oh, okay.
And we acknowledge that. It's like, that this is one of the reasons why the Book of Mormon is necessary. And like literally,
that's what I was going to say. You guys did a whole supplemental book.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Look at the Bible. There are two different accounts of Paul's conversion, where one says he saw a light and didn't hear a voice, and the other one says he heard a voice and didn't see anything. Okay, and so it's pretty easy to point out some of these errors that just seep. The Bible was translated, and stuff that as soon as you miss not in a sentence, like he did not do this, right? You've literally reversed the entire meaning of something, and it's really you have to be aware that errors can creep in through uninspired translations of things. By the way, I do believe the translation of the Bible into English was done by people that were inspired by God and led by God and stuff like that. And these are martyrs and truly good people that were acting under the inspiration of God and things. But people are still imperfect, and imperfections can come in. And so, you know, yeah, just to share that.
Sure.
Do you talk about politics and stuff on your second channel?
More pop culture, and when politics goes into pop culture, then we talk about how, you know, justice and everything. And so it's a very kind of anti-woke channel.
Okay.
And,
our show's basically like anti-woke, but everyone's like, you guys are liberals. So everyone kind of has us pinned as on the left.
Only like the most partisan people, you know, have that kind of simplistic viewpoint.
We pitch ourselves as centrists, which are obviously the most hated people on the internet. So
true.
Well, isn't the center the new right, because the left has gone so far left?
That's what Sargon is trying to say, obviously.
Fat Brown Buffalo for $10, our favorite Young Turk, says McCarthy got 202 votes and Jordan got 20 votes, but Tim Pool is saying McCarthy can't win, so Republicans should just vote for Jordan. Am I missing something, or is Tim Pool high on his own farts? Well, I don't know what Tim's logic is, because I haven't, I assume he talks about this in a video, but that doesn't seem to make sense to me if Jordan can only hit 20. That's
a pretty big disparity there.
Yeah,
that's
though
like
it's funny
times.
Because I looked it up they still weren't able to come to a conclusion today. But Jordan himself is voting for McCarthy, so I'm not sure the people that are voting for Jordan. I'm not sure what the person you're voting for doesn't want it and is voting for someone else. I think that should be a signal to change your vote. But that's just me.
That's just him virtue signaling humility. Sitch.
Oh, I see. I see. You're saying it's all a ploy.
You don't know how this works. He doesn't need his own vote to win.
Stug for $2 says God is an astronaut.
That would be cool.
There you go. Stug for $2 says, I saw you talk to Sargon, Chad. You're alt-right for sure.
Not for anything I said, just the fact that I dare associate with Carl.
Yes,
I'm definitely an alt-right evil bigot.
We have Carl's on our show all the time. He shows up in the chat on Sunday and we just invite him on to argue with us. So I don't know if you know that, but
oh no, yeah, I watch you guys, you know, regularly enough, and I caught the not live, but I watched the one when he came on to argue about monarchy and stuff. That was great.
Oh, the last one.
Are you a monarchist, Shad?
I'm more indifferent on it. I don't see a problem with the monarchy. I think there are benefits to, you know, tradition and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, the monarchy in terms of sort of the way it's run in England now, where they kind of don't do anything.
Constitutional monarchy.
Well, I also see benefits to having such a authority head of state. In terms of a monarchy, it can work really well. It can work really bad. It depends on the king or queen that you have in place.
Wasn't that true of like every system?
Yeah, probably. Interestingly, I think monarchy will return from a religious standpoint because we believe that, you know, God's kingdom will be established on earth and that Christ will be the head of it and stuff. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. You need a perfect being to make that kind of system work, obviously. So
when did Australia become independent from the Brits? Or
we're still in the Commonwealth.
So you still have so you're still the queen or the king now. If England is still your king, technically.
Yeah, we're still in the Commonwealth.
Wow, I didn't know I was talking to a subjugated person. Okay.
Well, hey, I kind of like it. Well, this is
right? You like the subjugation?
Yeah, well, not the subjugation. The fact that we're still in the Commonwealth, right? So many Australians have their ancestry comes from not only England but Europe and other things like that. And I think it's good to have that kind of connection with the past. It doesn't like the fact that we're in the Commonwealth doesn't affect how we run our country. We're basically an independent nation, but I like the fact that we have that connection. My ancestry is as much, you know, English and European as many English people and stuff. And I want to keep that connection. This is one of the reasons I'm so, you know, obsessed with the medieval period, because it is about my own past as well. and yeah, so
Listen,
I
listen.
kind of like
If you're a sub, Shad, there's nothing wrong with being a sub, okay? If you want the king to step on you a little harder, that's fine. It's totally fine, okay?
No, you get this wrong, Sitch. I want to become the king, and by
Oh,
having
of
it in
course.
place, it enables a possibility that I can work towards.
There you go. I like it. Peacekeeper for 9 New Zealand dollars says, couldn't you use AI art as a reference or mood board for locations and characters? Of course.
Absolutely. You could use it in so many incredible ways, but also stock image, right? People have to pay for stock image, and sometimes it can be expensive and stuff like that. Now you can generate your own stock image and use it in so many different creative ways, and you can do it for free. Again, accessibility to art and creativity, giving much more opportunity for people to express their artistic visions in a more, accessible way is a wonderful thing.
We did the art in the thumbnail right now is Midjourney. Like I tried to get Midjourney to do Sitches, but it can't do the mouth. Like you have
to add the mouth.
You got to do your own mouth. Yeah, it's just like.
Were you doing image to image?
No, I'm just doing prompts. You also have to like Sitch has, a nose or not a nose, which is actually kind of liberating as far as character design goes. But if you want to take the nose out, you got to take the nose out too, because it's hard to get images that are not just like a human face. So.
Right.
Yeah. Because there are a number of ways to get what you want. You could get some really interesting, really cool mouths if you just put that mouth into image to image and work with different kind of prompts if you want a jagged teeth or regular teeth, stuff like that. But you could maintain the strict shape of Sitch's mouth. You could get some really cool stuff, and then you combine it. And so this is the thing about knowing having artistic ability and being able to use other programs and stuff to be able to work with the program is how you're going to get the best results out of it.
But I honestly, this is where you're wrong, Shad, because drawing mouths is actually, that's my pleasure now. It is fun. I'm getting exceptionally good.
This is the thing, Adam. You don't actually like drawing mouths.
I do like it, to be honest with you.
You enjoy the creative.
Look,
no, actually, Adam has a fetish for drawing, not just mouths, my mouth specifically.
This is Sitch's character design is. You got to admit, it's difficult to put expressions on a face that doesn't, first of all, he doesn't have pupils, and he has a mouth that's like a paper mouth stuck on his head that, changes, but it's like you don't really, to get an expression on it that is like, that's disgust. You feel it as that's disgust. That's a challenge. And the AI
it's all the eyebrows. It's on the eyebrows.
The AI is not I tried it out, did not live up to that challenge. So,
that struggles in a lot of areas. Specificity is one of those things. Again, the exact expression you want is tricky. And so to get the expression I wanted on one of my, because I have a superhero character girl who's supposed to be shy, and it just wasn't doing shy. And so I had to take the final face that it did into Photoshop, raise the eyebrows, and actually warp it into a shy expression, but then bring it back into the AI to smooth it out into the style to get the result you want. And so at the moment, it still takes a lot of artistic input to get the specific result you want because it struggles with specificity. It requires still a lot of artistic talent to get those best results.
Yeah, this is the thing that I worry about, that we're going to be in a situation where the AI is going to get the credit for that. When you're like, really? The AI, I had to fix it for the AI.
Yeah, exactly.
Why is the AI getting the credit here?
That's exactly right. It shouldn't. So much of the AI work that I have made has been so much inputted by me and working on it. And especially in Photoshop, where it's actually almost, 70 to 80% me doing things, manually, and then getting the AI to help smooth it off and lift it at the end of it.
We joke around about ducks on the show a lot. Like Sitch has got some weird anti-duck fetish thing going. Like he's afraid of ducks.
Okay, no, listen. Okay, let me
ducks
ask
are delicious.
Okay.
I love
Shad.
ducks.
Let me
very
ask
yummy.
Shad is a seasoned warrior. Okay.
Oh no.
Do you think you could defeat a horse-sized duck unarmed in battle, Shad?
Unarmed? That's unfair. Why unarmed? Why can't I use my swords?
That's the prompt. No swords.
Especially a weapons expert.
Well, we'll say one scenario you have a sword and one you don't.
If I have a sword, easily. I could take out a dinosaur with a sword.
Wow.
What kind of dinosaur are you talking about?
Well, I made a video. You can check out, Knight vs. Dinosaur on Shadiversity.
All birds are dinosaurs, so a duck technically.
Oh, that exactly. Yes, it's true.
Okay, so no sword.
No sword.
Yeah.
You couldn't go definitively one way or the other. You could be lucky to win maybe what 30% of the fights.
Wow,
Engagements.
only 30%.
Look at this.
Okay.
A weapons expert on the show. Totally.
Yeah, but he doesn't have a weapon.
Like, hang on. What size was the duck again?
A horse size.
Horse size. Okay, so it has the mass and the weight to bowl you over. And its beak would be pretty darn.
Well,
yeah, so
it wouldn't be the mass of a horse.
The beak would be the big
the size.
problem.
no,
horse.
Sitch, square cube law. As soon as you increase something by double in size, you've increased its internal volume by a factor of 8. And so this duck is very heavy, okay? And weight is a massive advantage in power generation.
I'm
but
so
it wouldn't
glad
still,
you
I'm
asked
assuming it wouldn't be the
this.
same weight as
This
a
is
horse
why a
would be.
horse, when it kicks you, you go for a friggin' mile because it has so much weight. Weight is one of the more significant factors in determining power generation. This is why in boxing they're put against each other by weight class, not strength capacity. Okay, and so this duck is going to have weight behind it, and its beak. It's not necessarily sharp, but I mean, like a rock to the head, it's going to hurt. But I reckon if you're able to wrap your arms around it in a choke lock, it'll be hard for it to try and throw you off.
There you go.
And so that could raise your chances. It depends if you can get in close. So.
We're so
Okay,
clipping this out, man.
So you're at 30%. So you're at 30%.
So
Adam's at like 0%. I'm at like 80%.
Look, I'm a realist here.
Like I think you could raise it to 50% if you're using the right tactics and getting
There you
close,
go.
because choke holds are the way that you would take it out. That's
Look,
the main
okay.
thing.
So is kicking the duck's feet out from beneath him the right tactic? Is this the tactic that raises your stakes to 30%?
Get those hollow bones. From
No,
the duck.
because there'd be so much weight on those feet that you wouldn't be able to overcome the
Right,
friction
it would
that's
just,
holding it in
even
place.
if you kicked it out, the duck would fall on you and you'd crush you, basically, right?
But you like try and kick a horse's feet out from underneath
Well,
and see how much.
but there's sort of a conundrum, which is what I brought up in the hypothetical, which is that the way the duck's bones are structured, it couldn't support the weight of being that size in the first place.
Well, I was just taking for granted that we are accepting all genetic alterations for it to be able to function in the size of a horse, which means the bone density would have to increase to compensate.
Well,
Well,
no,
yeah,
but the bone thickness
the
would
bone
grow,
density,
though, obviously.
But wait, if the bone density increases, then obviously you wouldn't try to do the kick the legs out.
It would still have hollow bones, but the thickness of the hollow bones would increase as it increased with size, obviously.
Which would make it almost just as strong if they weren't hollow.
It's
because
regular
the-
bones, yeah.
Nah. But
Look,
whatever. So we're at
hold
0,
on.
50%, and I'm still
How
at 80%.
low?
So.
Look, if your strategy is to kick at the duck's feet, how low does that drop your percentage down to?
Oh,
Shab?
pretty darn low.
Just in
pretty
your
darn low.
opinion, like 0% or
Well, this is the thing. Even in swordsmanship and other combat, going for the legs can be really detrimental because it leaves you
Of
open in your upper
course.
body. And if you're not
That beak
covering
just comes
yourself
down
from that
on
beak,
you and-
oh yeah, that beak
Nah,
would be
look.
like getting pummeled by a club. You know,
You dodge roll the beak and the wing slap, and you just go for the leg kick. And if it doesn't work, then you jump around the back.
because the legs can kick back. Sitch. You need to go for a chokehold.
Well, ducks. The only time I've seen a duck
Talons
kick
and
something,
claws on it as well. What are you talking about?
the way ducks kick thing is that they like fly up and then they try to like kick down at you. I don't think a duck can kick when it's on the ground like forward.
If it's the
like
size of a horse, it freaking can.
No,
the
I
only
don't
reason
think.
why it needs to fly up is because it's so small it can't reach people.
Well, no, but a duck could kick. No, because a duck could reach another duck. I don't know if they're like the way their body is shaped, if they can like stand on one foot and like kick.
Maybe I need to have a look at the proportions of it.
Because like cranes can some birds do that, but I've never seen a duck do something like that. But hey, if it doesn't work, then you wrap around and you do the shad, try to choke it out.
No,
strategy.
chokehold is the
man.
first option. Chokehold nullifies the beak.
So there you go.
Can't smack you and everything like that. You'd be mostly protected from the legs as well, and so
Right.
the duck would have a really difficult time trying to throw you off or damage you while you're
While you're
denying
choking.
it
wouldn't it
oxygen.
just fly away though with you up there and then just
Well, would the
drop you
duck
down
be
from
smart
like,
enough to like?
No, your
figure
own weight
out?
would probably there's an argument that it wouldn't even be able to fly being so large anyway, not
Yeah,
having the
right,
right wingspan, and then having your weight on top of that, it's not going to be able to fly away.
That's true. That's true.
okay.
Sorry, this is the type of analysis I do for a living, guys. I think about this nerdy crap, against dragons
Oh man.
and ogres and all this stuff. This is my wheelhouse.
Look, you
Right.
can hear the confidence waning in Sitch's voice, and this is
What? No. What are you
completely-
talking about? Wait. You're projecting. Wait,
completely made my
Wait.
day.
Whoa. Do you see what you just did? Okay, so Shad gave a very reasoned argument that's actually persuading Adam that you could defeat a duck, and now he's projecting this like
No,
it's changing my
no.
opinion. I was always on the side of yes, and you were on the side of no.
Yeah, but you
what are you talking
you
about?
literally laid out a strategy time and time again that Shad himself has said would give you 0% chances of beating
No, because
the
we
duck.
were no. As I said, we were operating under different assumptions of how exactly the duck's bones would be.
Uh-huh.
If it's the way that Shad is conceptualizing, then obviously he wouldn't try to do that.
Right. So are you you're gonna like go for the chokehold now?
Sure, I think that's a very viable strategy. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I don't think a standard duck has any way of reach. Well,
that has a beak. That's his.
Well, no, ducks can turn their head around almost entirely, can't they, to like peck their own backs? But if you're choking it, I don't know if it would be able to do that. So
I think that beak is like 20% the length of its body.
yeah, but if depending on when you're choking it, if you're so close to the duck's head, it couldn't probably get enough force to even like if it's hitting you with the beak, you're like right next to it. It's not generating that much force, I would assume.
Choke high up and then just pull it down in the chokehold,
right,
nullifying its movement.
Yeah, I think that would be the strategy.
Okay.
Listen, you can be off in the zero beta land, Adam, where you just get your ass kicked by the duck.
Well, I mean,
we'll
if
be
it's
the victorious.
Look, if it's fight to the death, I'm in there. But like, if I can run and just 100% chance I'm gonna live.
Well, okay,
I'm
but
out
that's
of there.
not the hypothetical is not do you run away from a horse-sized duck or fight it? That wasn't the question.
Well, I'm being a realist, obviously.
Okay, it's just like yesterday.
Get a sword, slash its throat, done.
There you go. Well, if I had a gun, I would. Yeah, okay. Speaking of Carl Benjamin for $2 is the real Carl Benjamin. Definitely not an imposter. For $2, says AI art is a violation of our human experience. One cannot comprehend the virtuous ethos of our imaginations with mere machinations of iteration. The human mind is a realm of true imagination and integral metaphysics.
But what if I want to express that, that creativity in my mind through AI art?
I can't even tell if that's pro or against.
It sounds like a parody, but I can't. But people would unironically say that argument, word for word.
Right. Well, actually, we never asked Carl about AI art. I mean, he's very, he wants to destroy all the robots anyway, so I'm assuming he's against the AI art in principle. Doug for $2 says there are several problems with this hypothesis about the universe having a center, which is at time 0. Light from Andromeda would be blue shifted rather than red shifted for one. We are 26,000 light years from the galactic center for another. Sure, that makes sense to me. Rhythmus for $6 says, Sitch, we as a society recognize that there is a physical power differential between men and women. That is the basis for sex-segregated spaces, and that differential still exists between women and trans women. I mean, I think that's a piece of the equation. I think a bigger piece of it is just, girls would feel uncomfortable. I think the threat concern is just the uncomfortable of sexual assault, being in the space is. I would assume that's what the main concern is for the sex segregated spaces, but I guess that ties in the power differential. But Adam, where's your shirt from? Says PC for $5. I can only see part of it, but female high school student doesn't bring up helpful results.
Oh, I guess I actually told them I got it from Threadless, so I guess they were just saying I'm wearing a beta shirt.
There you go.
I'll do better next time.
Andrew Clark for $2 wanted me to ask Mike the father or mother question, which I wasn't going to ask. And I don't think I'm going to ask Shad that. I don't think I'm going to ask anyone that question. So
I think that's a good plan.
That's probably good going forward. Sodo for $2 says, missed the stream. I'm assuming Jesus made Adam cry.
Nope.
That did happen. Sir Rebel Palsy for 2 months, thank you, says the issue with religious conversations is theists don't actually understand what they're talking about. Ouch. Quote, how did nothing explode and create everything, etc. Listen, as a theist myself, I still believe in all the scientific, arguments. So
I would love to talk deep, theology with you guys sometime. That's my wheelhouse as well. I love that stuff. Sure, it's just a whole don't know what they're talking about. It's like,
Yeah, it depends because a lot of people, especially people. Well, because we were talking with Mike earlier, and he was, we're kind of probing because I didn't know what his beliefs were. He was throwing out all sorts of things I wasn't familiar with. So, but I don't know if it's true or not about them. Metalworks for 1190 for $2 says, I agree with Shad about having softer copyright laws. Based.
Yeah, so do I.
Rich Jammer for 50p says, only God is allowed to make art, not man nor machine. There you go.
Just on that note, though, actually, I the whole definition of art is so subjective, and you can't really impose your definition of art on other people and say this is the correct one. And so, because there's a whole is AI art, and for me, absolutely, of course, it is. But I feel like, art, nature is art as well. The greatest artist is God, and so I think restricting art to only being man-made is really limited. And by the way, I also don't think you can have a valid argument to say AI art is not truly man-made, because it's a byproduct of man-made technology. People did make it, and so in the end, it is still man-made as well.
There you go.
Yeah, I agree. It's like foisting your definition onto other people is not really a thing you can do.
Mm-hmm. Some weird guy for $5 says, Shad, you wonderful Lord of Swords. I have a Zweihander. Is that how you say it? Zweihander. And a standard longsword. What natural elements would you recommend I infuse into them?
That's a more complex discussion.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah. So if you are enchanting it, would you infuse the power of fire or the power of cold? Or I think that's what they're asking. Gotcha. And the stereotypical fire enchantment, not as effective as you would think it would be.
That seems weak.
One of the better enchantments, honestly, if you can get this sword to an insane razor edge, insanely sharp, just purely having a near indestructible enchantment on it, so you don't need to sharpen it again, that sword is insane. The amount of extra power without fear or risk of damaging the thing would change up the way you would fight with it, and it would be a beastly sword. And then if you had an enchantment, this is seriously one of the coolest enchantments, if you could have a sword. If you could have a sword that functions and interacts with the world as if it weighed really heavy, but in your own hands, it functioned and interacted with you like it was the weight of a regular sword or even lighter. If you could strike someone with a sword and it was both indestructible and had insane weight behind it, oh boy, you could chop massive trees in half and stuff like that. It would be a lot of fun.
That'd be cool. The most dope for $2 says, Shad believes any same-sex couple depictions in media are inappropriate for children. Of course, he's free to believe what he wants as long as he isn't forcing on others, but do you agree or disagree with that?
First of all, straw man of my point. I have no problem that Gandalf was gay. Okay, all right. I don't care if there are gay people in children's media. What I have a problem with is certain acts of sexual expression in children's media, both gay and straight. Okay.
You don't want heavy petting in your children's media, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that seems reasonable.
But okay, so sure, yeah. But you're not if there's I don't know, some kid's movie and it's the kid has two dads, but they're never kissing. You're that's fine.
I mean, this is such a weird argument that people make about how we've got to, basically explain homosexuality to school children. I'm yeah, I understand there's a mom and a dad in children's media, but they don't talk about where kids come from and stuff like that. Yep. It's not explicit.
True.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
All right. Cool. Thanks for coming on, Shad. This was a lot of fun.
Hey, my pleasure, guys.
Good luck on your discussions.
My battle. Holy crap! And it is still waging hot.
Avoid the drawing thing, and I think you're halfway there.
People are strawmanning my point. It's frustrating.
I know, but people hate to be told that they're wrong, and
I know.
The shields go up, and it's red alert.
Yep.
So, all right, cool. Anything else, Sitch? Or
thank you all for coming. Thank you all for your incredibly generous donations. Thank you, Mike, for coming on, and thank you, Shad, for coming on. And thank you all for watching to the end. You are the true heroes. And oh, wait a minute. One more. Some weird guy for $5 says, what if the elements must remain natural like those found in Last Airbender, water, fire, earth, air, and derivations of each?
that's a simplification of what elements are. I mean, fire is technically a combination of, gas and heat, and stuff. And so the more simplistic breakdown of the elements, earth, water, wind, fire, a more scientifically satisfying breakdown is like the states of matter, solid, liquid, gas, and then, you're like technically movement, because heat is just, molecules moving fast and stuff. So heat and cold could be something like that. But fire is technically a combination of heat and gas. And so, yeah. What do you mean when you break it down?
Well, I mean, when also it would depend on what it does, right? Like if the sword's just on fire, that's not useful. But like if it shoots fire,
like on fire actually might be detrimental because it would cauterize wounds and stop bleeding.
You see it in the dark, it's like all kinds of mess. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you can like shoot fire out for something,
it would have intimidation and freak people out a lot, and burning on the skin is very painful, and there'd be and stuff, and so.
Oh, okay.
So there you go. Anyway, thank you all for coming. Thank you all for your incredibly generous donations, and we'll see you all on Sunday.
Bye-bye.
See yous.
All right, Shad.
Well, yeah.